cried Thor. See ye yonder, spake Odin of the one eye. There, twining through the roots and branches of Yggdrasil, the tree of life, the silvery glint of the hidden path on skyward.
Ladies and gentlemen, and anonymous cowards, I'd like to personally welcome you to the lucky number 7 episode of the one and only Hidden Path podcast. It's Saturday night, October 13th, 2018. I'm your host, Resonance Rich, and in studio again with me tonight is our co-host, Deep Eddie. How you doing, Deep Eddie?
I'm doing great.
Great. This show is brought to you by godlikeproductions.com, our home and community forum. Head over there, check it out, show them your support. We're coming to you live from Fort Collins, Colorado, where we are currently under a severe winter weather storm, so if the stream happens to drop out momentarily, you know why. Also, we would like to send out a big heartfelt congratulations to our producer, Renaissance Ted, who had to rush back home this past week to be present for the birth of his grandchild. So we'd like to ask you to join us in congratulating Renaissance Ted. And also, we'd like to give him a big thanks for all his hard work scouting out interesting guests for you, the audience. Thank you, Ted. And speaking of guests, tonight, our guest is Mháire Stritter. She's a writer and actress of the movie Space 1889, The Secret of Phobos. In the movie, Mháire plays the protagonist, Will Armstrong. Will is the captain of the space vessel, Urania, where she and her companions embark on a Victorian-age journey through the solar system. In Space 1889, mankind has discovered how to travel the mysterious ether and conquered the jungle planet of Venus and the dwindling empire of the Martians. If you'd like to rent or buy the movie, we'll leave a link in the description, or you could just visit Vimeo.com and search for Space 1889, The Secret of Phobos. Mháire, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I'm really grateful that Ted found us and brought us onto the show.
Absolutely.
And also shout out, I hope he enjoys the first few weeks with his grandson. It's going to be great.
Yes, he's loving it. He's loving it. So, Mháire, my first question tonight, I'd like to ask you, if you could explain for ourselves and the audience, where did this all start? How did it all begin? Space 1889, that is.
Space 1889, that is actually a role-playing game, a good old-fashioned tabletop role-playing game, and it started in the 80s back then. And a friend of ours, who's a German, he's the boss of a publishing house. He loved the game, and he decided to recreate it and do a new version of it a few years back. And we've been part of the German role-playing scene for quite some time, and we did a fan film for another role-playing game. And a few years back, we thought, so Space 1889, the setting is awesome, and we'd really love to do something that's not straight-up fantasy, but this kind of weird and interesting and fancy Victorian science fiction fantasy mixture. And so we just asked him if he actually wanted to do something official. And we talked to the creator of the game, Frank Chadwick, who is very amiable, very lovely man. And he was on board. And so we just started working on it. And then we realized that for some things we have to do, we needed funding, at least a little bit. So
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And you guys started with Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, right. And that was kind of intertwining a lot of different things we did, because at the same time we thought it would be awesome to have a dinosaur in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Because yeah, right, because it's in the setting, it's like and then we started filming once we got the dinosaur, and actually while we were traveling to get it, and we also used it for location scouting and to find some very remote and very awesome places to film.
Yeah.
On our travel to China and back. Yeah, and then it was a very long and winding road.
That trip to China, I think when we spoke earlier, you said, was it your husband that went out there and he's going to make a documentary about that? Was that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
So that was so interesting that it deserves its own kind of film, huh? To go get the animatronics dinosaur.
There was an adventure in its own, definitely. And the documentary is done. It's ready for release. But we're still waiting for a go from the producer. So that's on ice right now, kind of. But we're hoping to get a push for it soon, and then it's going to be released.
Well, maybe when he wants to release it, we can bring him on and talk to him about it. But right now, tonight, we're talking with you, Mháire, and I'd like to know, what is your motivation behind you playing the role you play, you being an actress? Did this start earlier in life? Is this something you've always aspired to do?
Actually, no. It happened by accident. I do like to perform, and I did what probably most people do who like it in school. I was on stage for a few little things, but this actually working with my husband back when we barely knew each other, and of course we're not married. It started because he was doing a fan film for another role-playing game, and I was on set basically because it was in between two different conventions, and he realized that someone dropped out playing the role, and he was looking for someone who could just jump in and learn the dialogue really quick, and who spoke clean German, because we had a lot of people there, but they were all Bavarian.
Oh, wow.
They have a very strong dialect.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how it sounds for non-German ears, but a Bavarian accent sometimes can be a little bit funny.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the right word. And so I happened to be in another film just because I was the one person there who was not from Bavaria. And everyone liked what I did, to my great surprise. And the role got bigger and bigger as the movie got along. And yeah, and a few years later, he and I were a thing. We've been together now for almost 10 years. And, you know, it's handy if you have an actress who's around all the time. And so I got more and more roles in the projects. So
absolutely.
That's how I ended up as being also the lead in this film.
Yes. Did you enjoy that?
Well.
It seems like you did.
I like the character. In the beginning, I was a little bit hesitant to be actually the person in the leading role, because I thought there's surely someone who's better at this than me. But I fell in love with Will Armstrong. She can be harsh. Let's put it like that.
Tough character. Yeah.
She's not always easy to be around, but I liked her bluntness.
Yes.
How direct she is. Yes. And that was kind of a release also to scream at people on film and to be the person calling the shots.
Yeah, and I think with that role, I mean, in the Victorian age, you know, a woman in that position would definitely have to be, you know, assertive and or assertive. I'm sorry, more so than in any time, really. And yeah, I think you played the role really well, and really it shined through with you.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's a very interesting time, and for women also, especially with the women's rights movements slowly starting, or not so slowly, but also very, very assertive and very strongly. And actually the role-playing game also pays homage to that in several aspects, and tries to offer interesting and different roles for female characters. And yes, we wanted to bring that in there.
So were you a big fan of the role-playing game? Did you play it in your younger years, or you still play it at all? Or we don't know much about the game. We've looked it up a bit, but how old is the role-playing game actually?
I think actually it's from 1989. So
okay.
It's from the 80s. And no, I actually didn't play it when it was around the first time. So it ran for quite a few years back then, and then kind of dwindled away. And when it was re-released in a new and revamped version, I think in 2012 or 2011, that's where I first got my hands on it. And yes, and I played it, and I played it several times since then, and I enjoyed it. It's a different setting from most of the genres I usually play. play classic fantasy role-playing games, and I'll play science fiction and a few weird things. But
Yeah,
this one is special.
I think when we were corresponding with you via email, Ted had forwarded us an email saying you were busy during a conference dressed up with Warhammer 40K gear.
Yes, I was actually at a LARPing convention
Oh,
for
yeah.
Warhammer 40K, and I don't know. Do you know Warhammer 40K? And is that it?
Is that a card game?
It's a lot of things. It's
Yeah,
a
but
miniature
LARPing,
game, and there's role playing games, and the LARPs, they are unofficial actually. But I love dressing up as this science fiction technology priest, and I run around in a former military compound and in very heavy robes and
So
whacking
how?
people with my weapon.
Yeah, so how does that LARPing work? We've seen just bits and pieces of it, but is it kind of like the role playing board game in a way? Like you actually roll dice or something, or is it more just for theatrics kind of thing?
In Europe, it's theatrics basically.
Yeah.
There's different cultures and different ways to go at LARPing all over the world, and most games people play here in Europe, they are more about the acting. It's like yeah, improv theater a little bit,
Yeah. Good way to
and you have a
practice.
setting. Hmm?
Good way to practice too, I bet.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very good for improvisation and for exploring character in play. Actually, so it actually helps me with acting. And lots of people we also have in the film started out trying on this well hobby in LARPing actually. So we know a lot of people on there from the hobby.
So what other movies have you played in and had a role in? How many other movies or smaller films
Ooh,
or whatnot?
gosh, let me look at it. There's the fan film for another role playing game, The Dark Eye.
Oh.
That's where I have a medium-sized role, and there's few smaller things. We do have a YouTube channel where we do a lot of kind of
Oh yeah.
just news and talks and things like that.
What's that
But
YouTube
I also
channel?
do some. That's Orkenspalter TV.
Whoa.
TV.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's a long and weird German word. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay, that would be
And
great for us.
and yeah, it means orc cleaver.
Art Cleaver.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Great. You got that in the
and
chat, Eddie. You can put it in the description later. But yeah. So a lot of role playing type roles
mhm,
you're playing here. But one of the things that's interesting about this film that we've seen, where a lot of the scenes were very well done, um, a lot of locations. Did you have to? I know you had mentioned something about that you had filmed in, among other places, like in Iceland during a solar eclipse, that kind of thing. Um, how was that process? How did you guys decide where you were gonna go and find these perfect locations for this film?
that was a long puzzle,
Yeah.
long and hard puzzle. Yeah, we sometimes the film worked out in a strange way that we sometimes adjusted the plot to fit the sets that we basically found in nature and to fit the people we had on location.
Hmm.
And we knew we needed Venus, we knew we needed Mars, and we knew we needed Phobos, and also we needed Victorian age Earth, and with steampunk strewn in. And it started off, the first things we did actually were in Iceland, and we realized there was the solar eclipse coming, and that Iceland was going to be
Oh
very close
wow.
to the path of the full solar eclipse. And so,
Yes. And that was last year,
yeah,
wasn't it? I think we.
no, that was, let me think back, that was early 2015, I
Okay, so
think.
quite a while back. Okay.
Yes, it was the very first thing we did. And I always wanted to go to Iceland anyway, so we said, okay, let's do it. And we went in March, which can be a gamble with the weather in Iceland, but we were very lucky. And when the solar eclipse was passing by, we were in the south of Iceland, in a very, very lovely place with lots of black rocks and basalt. and everyone else was filming at the sun. And filming and photographing the solar eclipse, and we were just using the very focused light of the solar eclipse, because the shadows, they look different as the smaller the source of light gets, and everything seems very focused and very crisp and clear, and we used that to kind of bring an eerie feeling into some of the shots. Yeah, and then we just picked a few places on Iceland for extra shots for Phobos, just because it's this absolutely beautiful, naked, honest, rough landscape that that is hard to find anywhere else on Earth. It's an absolutely magical place.
I bet. And Iceland's one place that I've always wanted to go to. It's one of my top places outside of the country, and that must have been an awesome experience, especially with the eclipse. How much time did you guys have for filming during the eclipse? I mean, that's like a kind of a short window, I'd imagine, and it's kind of like get the scenes and go.
Yeah, basically that's right. It was I think the bits where the shadows were the best and the light was the best, there was 20 to 40 minutes tops.
Oh, wow.
And so those are not dialogue scenes in any way. Those are just the mood scenes for Phobos, being outside on Mars' barren rocky moon. And yeah, we did as many shots as we could in the time. And it was a very, very rushed and very frantic thing, to be honest, because it was hard to find the right spot for it. Yeah.
Very stressful, I imagine.
Yeah.
What other locations did you guys scout out and film at that are worth mentioning, do you think?
Definitely the Azores Islands, and we knew that they were a good place to go for Venus, this foggy, misty jungle planet, because we were there during another holiday of ours a few years back with friends, and we realized that they actually have something like rainforest on the island in some spots, and it's also a very lovely, dreamy place in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
And it's officially part of the European Union because it's part of Portugal, so good place to go as a German citizen. And so we went there again to do some shots in the jungle.
Is that where they filmed the dinosaur scene? Is that what we're looking at here?
No, the dinosaur scene is split between bits in the Azores jungle, but this one actually is in Germany. So we we had to trick a lot in the scenes and do shots without the dinosaur on the Azores Islands, and then put the shots with the dinosaur in Germany in there, and move things around to make it work.
Oh wow. Well, you guys definitely did a good job with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we did a lot of color grading in that scene to fit the mood.
So other places like the Gobi Desert you'd mentioned, how was that? Was that challenging at all for filming?
Yes, it was.
I bet. Oh my gosh.
I knew it because I studied sinology, so East Asian studies and Chinese in university, and in 2008 I went to West China and visited a few places in the Gobi Desert and the Taklamakan Desert, and I remembered those. And when we decided to go to China to bring the dinosaur home, I said there's a few perfect places I know for Mars. And in Europe we don't have deserts, so we have like two, and they're tiny and also in very remote places, and they're not as substantial and as beautiful and as awe-inspiring as the deserts that around the world.
Yeah, that was a great pick for Mars.
Oh yeah, I'm glad that it worked out, and it was pretty. It was hard to get there. That's a place in that is very remote, and you have to drive over sand dunes and a lot of broken road to get there.
Oh,
And it's
sure.
actually it is a tourist spot, but in China that can mean a lot of things, and it can also mean that there's hardly a road leading to the place you're trying to get. And we also, if you go to China and drive your own vehicle,
Uh-huh.
you usually need to bring a guide along, and the guide is watching every step you take, and it's really
Oh,
stressful and it's really
yeah.
wearing you down.
Is that part of the
And
Chinese government's
yes,
requirement? Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And they are also trained in watching for what you film and trying to direct you to places that look good on camera and away from places they don't want you to film, and to not
Wow.
talk to people they don't want to talk to. But we managed to lose him for this day for a few hours.
Oh.
To shout out in the desert because he was tired of us too, and he was glad to be rid of us
Did you
because
get
we were.
did you guys happen to see anything you weren't supposed to, you think?
Yeah, yes, we
Ooh.
were a lot of things.
Oh.
The poverty, the people living by the
Uh,
roadside, and we talked to a lot of people in Western China. They're called the Uyghur, an ethnic minority in Western China, who are the majority in Xinjiang, which is the westernmost um, province, and you hardly hear anything about it outside of China. I'm trying to keep up to date what's happening, but the thing is, they're Muslim people. They're in pretty old Silk Road dwelling people, and let's put it like this: China used the general anti-Muslim feelings and sentiments around the globe during the last 10 to 20 years to crack down on them very harshly. And yeah, resentment is simmering, and I think many people we talk to,
yeah.
not on camera, they'd never talk on camera about this, of course.
Wow.
Yes, they would love to be independent, but that's probably not going to happen. So yeah, there was a very very bittersweet thing being
Right.
there and talking to people and seeing how
That's
they
got to
live.
be hard to see. Definitely. Um, but getting the flip side of that, what would be your most memorable moment of making this film? Your most positive moment? Maybe somebody helping out or something going right. What would that be? Your most memorable moment from this film, if you could pick one?
One. Oh my
Oh,
gosh. That's going to
so
be
many.
hard. Can I pick three?
Sure, absolutely.
I've got I've got a top three,
Okay.
and one of the sweetest memories just early in the beginning of this project was when we were on the Azores Islands and we filmed over New Year's Eve, and we were in a very lovely place on the island. Rented a small house. It's actually pretty cheap to go there during the winter because it's the off season. And yeah, we had a small celebration with the team, and it's clement weather, and standing on the top of on the roof of the house and looking out over the place and seeing the people in the street congratulating each other and wishing a happy new year, and
Oh,
just this feeling, oh, we're starting out on something great. This is going to be lovely, and we're here with lots of people that we like and doing something together. That was great.
yes.
And the second moment was when someone contacted us and he said, "Hey, I've seen your project. I see you're doing this movie set in the Victorian age. I happen to have a manor from that time. Would you like to come here and shoot your movie?"
Wow, perfect.
that that's a lucky break.
Yes.
And we're friends now, pretty good friends. We're actually
Heck
going.
yeah.
Actually
Look at
going there next weekend to visit them and
oh,
play role playing games with them. He's an avid role player, and that's how he knew us. And just visit him and his wife and his lovely little daughter, and it's an awesome place. It's Armstrong Manor in the film,
okay.
and that's in northern Germany. And it's just he said that there's lots of other productions who film there, and they're like, what do you call them in English? In German, it's called Schmonzetten. That's kind of the bodice ripper novels, just in movie format. So romance novels,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, and he was happy to have something else.
Yeah. Yeah, lucky breaks
And
like that. So that was number 2?
that's number 2, and number 1 is when we filmed in China and when we got the dinosaur on our way home, one day from the Chinese border, our car broke down.
Oh.
And yes, the engine was just kaput. It was broken completely. And then we were stuck in China over the biggest Chinese holidays, over the Golden Week holiday. And then our visa were running out and we didn't know what to do. And we were almost out of funds for the whole thing. And friends of us in Germany started a shout out to people who watch our videos on YouTube and things like that. And they said, hey, these guys are stranded in China. Can you just chip in? And they did. And we got enough money from this shout out to repair the car and to get back home with the dinosaur.
That is so nice.
To get your visa. That was chilling. That
gives you hope in the world again, right?
Yes, and I thought, why us? There's so many different things. And some people very rightfully said, why do this? It's their own fault. It was pretty stupid to go there with this almost broken down car and try this. But many lovely people chipped in anyway. Although some said, don't do this again, guys. But here's a little bit. Here's a few bucks.
Yeah, get out of there.
Do it. Yeah, come back home. It's not good being stranded there. And we actually got to know even more people who helped out with the film via this, because someone he's a minor celebrity in Germany, especially in the geeky scene. Tommy Krabweis, who did an actual, fully fledged, fully funded fantasy movie called Mara and the Firebringer. So plug there, Tommy. He pitched in, and we saw his name on the list, and we was like, whoa,
wow,
what happened there? And we got to contact, and he's actually in the movie now in Space 1889. He's the weird Martian in the museum.
Okay.
And so
yeah,
he's our star guest, our cameo.
So that was all through the power of the internet, huh?
Yes, and the power of the community.
Absolutely. People and the internet is a great thing. That's like us right now, the way we're talking. I tried calling you with international cell phone calling. It didn't work, so now we're using the internet. Isn't that great?
Yeah. Voice over IP, best thing.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to ask you about the movie. In it, there's the scientific theory of the luminiferous ether, or the ether propeller. What are your thoughts on that? Is that just part of the role-playing game, or is there more to that? Do you think there may be an ether?
I don't think so, no. No, that's just for fun, and just because the role-playing game takes the ideas, the Victorian age idea of how the solar system works, and just says how would it be if we take this and just assume it works, and then we're not going to talk about it a lot more. So there's no big explanations exactly how those engines work, apart from how far you can go with them in the solar system before you basically and now literally run out of steam, because the ships, they run on solar energy to create the heat for their steam engines, and so the further you get away from the sun, the harder it gets to keep the engines running. And then the realistic bit of the role-playing game comes in when they think about how would the human civilization of the time react to finding new places to go, about finding new planets, and about finding new cultures and intelligent beings who are not humans. So it's actually also about how people live with realizing that they're not the only intelligent species out there, especially during a time where this was also a tenet of faith to being the exceptional being on Earth, of being the image of God, and what it means to be out there and realize that there is another creation, or that the creation also encompasses more intelligent beings, and how actually that's going to be a challenge for a lot of people, and also how the age of colonialism is going to change when there's a whole solar system to colonize. And the role-playing game also actually deals, and I think very well, with the very dark sides of the age. So it deals also with how, for instance, the Belgian kingdom, there were really ugly atrocities in Congo during the time, and it deals with them, it mentions them, and it also kind of unfolds on how the European powers dealt with the places they conquered and transfer that also to Mars and to Venus in a lot of different and very varied ways. And I think they did a good job in addressing the problems and the dark sides, and still keeping it a game you want to play, which is a hard thing to do. So they acknowledged all this, and you can also have it in your game to have it as a talking point and to think about it and to work with this and through this. But you can also just have your pulp age adventure if you want to. It offers a lot of things, but it doesn't gloss over this, and I very much respect that, and we also wanted to have that.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting, and that is a good topic to think about in terms of how would it be then if in an age where people believe that they are made in God's image and they find out, oh, there's life in the solar system everywhere. And it almost ties into today, like how do you think people would react today if we discovered that there was an abundance of life that was way more intelligence than us? I mean, we might accept it a little more, but I still think a lot of people would have a hard time taking it.
Yes, I think it would be very much the same challenge. It's still going to for some people put faith to the test, and for some people it's going to be terrifying, and for some people it's going to be awesome. I count myself among the people who are going to say this is awesome.
Oh yeah,
I love to see friendly aliens, and I don't think I'm going to have to be the only one.
Definitely.
Yeah, but
and
yes,
do you believe on life on other planets or in the galaxy somewhere?
Somewhere, huh?
I'm pretty sure that there's life out there. I'm not sure about intelligent life. That's the great filter, the Fermi paradox problem. And as much as I would like to see intelligent aliens, I think our chances for continued survival are best if we don't find any intelligent life out there, because it means we already have passed the bottleneck. And the bottleneck maybe is to have higher life forms, or not single-cell organisms, or intelligent life that is actually able to look out at the universe. So if we're already past the point where the universe seems to kind of put a stop to life, then we're good.
Yeah.
If we're not past that point, there's something looming ahead of us. So
So some of the scenes, going back to the movie, some of the scenes, they look really well, but you can kind of tell that they're kind of, I would guess, CGI in a way. How challenging was that? I'm sure you had somebody working on that. Did you use green screen or computer graphics at all, or how did all that work? Because some of those scenes, they look really good, I gotta say. Like where the location was for the Glasgow spaceport, was that CGI at all?
hardly. We used as little green screen as possible. So
That's
not
good.
very well, I'm
like
afraid.
that.
So
I like
most of the sets are 100% practical. And if there's something CGI'd in there, it's kind of looking over the city through a window where there wouldn't be a city, or having a starship in the background where there wouldn't be a starship docked. But what is purely CGI is the intro with the planets, because we actually had planned on a practical intro, because we know someone who makes very beautiful glass globes of Mars and Venus, Victoria.
Oh, really?
Actually, steampunk. But we couldn't work the timetable. We never found a time and a place.
Oh man, I want one. How much do they cost?
a lot. That's
A
the
lot.
problem. And yeah, I think there's
Sounds gorgeous.
$7,000 each, but he would have been willing to lend them to us
Uh-huh.
for the shoot,
Oh,
but
yeah.
only for a very small amount of time, and only close to him, and we didn't find a place where we could do this in time, so we had to skip that idea. And
Well,
it's sad. The interest
yeah,
rate someone
but
made it for us.
I have to applaud you guys for that effort. I mean, I love it when a film tries their best to limit the CGI and green screen effects, because we see it saturated in so many movies, especially Hollywood movies. It's none of it's like I didn't mean to mention the Glasgow spaceport, by the way. Where was that filmed at? That he's pulled it up on the screen now. That is a
Yeah.
cool looking location.
That is also another lucky break. That is an industrial museum in Germany,
Oh, okay.
and we know someone who does, who is the technician for
Man,
events.
you guys know a
in
lot
this
of
place.
people.
Yes.
That helps,
And
right?
yes, they're all role players,
Oh, that's
connected.
awesome. Role players rule
Yeah.
the world, man.
At least a very specific, awesome part of the world, if you ask me. And so yeah, we managed to shoot there for free, because he decided that this is going to be part of the training of his trainees as
Oh,
electricians and technicians. And that used to be gosh, what's it called in English?
it's so
it's a steel
steampunk.
mill. It's a steel mill, I think. So where they cooked steel
Oh, okay.
and produced it,
Yeah.
because that's in the Ruhr area of Germany, which used to be big coal and steel country, and everything you see there, that's what remains of a big steel factory. And we also used a lot of what they have there for the insides of the starship, for the Urania. And what you see as the outside of Urania while she's docked in Glasgow, that's the bottom part of the steel cooker, the steel oven,
Oh,
the high pressure
yeah.
oven, and that is where the steel would come out once it's ready. And yeah, that was awesome. And they had a lot also of very fancy equipment, the people there, and we got a machine, a fog machine that was so strong that we actually we didn't realize it was very windy, and we have these nice jets of steam around the dock ship, and they look very nice and firm, and we said, oh, awesome. And then we stepped back a little bit and went back to where we had the rest of the equipment. We really realized that the whole museum, and that's a really big place, was kind of in fog, because we'd been shooting for
Oh
2
my
hours.
gosh.
Yes, and then the police called, and yeah.
Wow. Sounds like a lot of adventure making a film like this, or any film really. And this may be a hard question for you, but if you had to pick your most favorite moment out of this whole process, what would it be? Could you tell us about that? I know you probably have 3 of them, but
Okay, my favorite moment of the process.
and you could just speak in general terms too. Do you like that? Do you like the writing? Do you like the acting? Do you like the scouting locations? It all seems like a lot of fun. Either way, I'd have to say.
Yes, I actually, although I was very hesitant at first, I really enjoyed the acting, and I did a lot of jobs on this film, because we're tiny crew. in
Yes.
the end, for the last few months, it was just my husband and me, slugging away at post production and cutting the movie, and doing all the fine tuning.
Yeah.
And the acting part was the most enjoyable one, to just
Yeah.
get in there and let go, and just be in the scene and be the character. And I'm lucky that I'm very quick at learning dialogue, because I'm lazy learning it up front. And then just the process of being there and developing the dialogue, and sometimes ad-libbing and changing small things on the spot while working with the other actors, that was the most fun part. When one weekend where we parked our set for the inside of Urania for the cockpit, which was inside the mobile home that we also used to drive to China and back. We built it in there. We parked it at a friend's place, and then we shot a lot of scenes inside Urania over the weekend, and that was a very lovely weekend. And and I think my favorite scene is actually a very small one. It's just between Basil Zaharov, who was actually a real person during the time, the weapons dealer in the movie, between Basil Zaharov and Will, and it's just a very small dialogue that we had. But we'd been shooting for hours, and we were so much in character, and we had such a good rapport, and it just clicked for me. That was the scene that just finally kind of gave me an insight into how this character worked for the rest of the film. And I don't think you can feel it when you watch the scene, because it's just this tiny thing. But
might be some just for you.
Yeah. Yes, for me, that was the moment where I saw it all coming together, just in this one moment of clarity. And I get it. Now I really get it, what I'm doing here.
So when you go on these long strings of acting, long days, do you ever catch yourself being in character, probably when you shouldn't be?
I sometimes found myself a little bit more boisterous and louder than I usually am, and I think Will kind of, some of her way to hold herself, and so of her self-assuredness kind of seeped back into me, which is not a bad thing. So I take a little bit away from her. Yes.
How often did you guys have to take long takes, like several times? I'm sure some scenes were more complex than others, but I'm guessing as time went along and the film went along, you guys probably formed your characters very, very fast, and it became easier along the way?
Yes, it did. And you can also, I think you can see, because some of this is also shot, bits of it are shot chronologically. Mm-hmm. So Venus was some of the first things we did, and you can see like how Anselm, who plays Michel Verne, also a real character from the time, how he gets more and more into this character from one take to the next. Anselm and most of the people in this film are not professionals; they're just in it for the fun. And Anselm is someone who loves being on stage, and he does stage work. And we had to keep telling him, tone it down a bit. You don't have to play that much with your body.
Jeez.
So the very first takes we did with him in the jungle, where he finds a piece of chicken in a tree, which was also a hard thing for him because he's vegan.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Guys, do I really have to touch the dead animal? And the first shot we did, and I was with the position where the camera was like 100 yards away, and he came in and he did all the acting, and he did it all with limbs akimbo and really big gestures, and then he ran away into the jungle, and we did the worst thing we could do. We broke out laughing, which was very, very, very harsh and not nice, but it was so funny because he was overacting. So he got more into it from one to the next. And one of the hardest scenes we ever did was one of the very first scenes with Zaharov, with the weapons dealer, because we gave the friend of ours, an actor who played Basil Zaharov, we gave him his text, but we gave him in German. And we realized too late that we also had to give him the English version, because we filmed it in English, the scene. And it was so hard for him because he'd learned the German version, and he's not someone who can pick up the dialogue in 5
And I gotta
to
say,
10 minutes.
You speak English very well.
Oh, thank you so much.
You do.
I'm training. I was raised by the internet.
Awesome. Another thing the internet's good at.
Oh yes, teaching you foreign languages.
Yes.
So we had to do his take, the Zaharov take, sentence by sentence, and I was there coaching him through every sentence, and I was so sorry for him. It was so hard to wrap his mind around the sentences and to still act and to still be in character. And there was the point where we decided, well, Basil Zaharoff, as I mentioned, there was a real person. He was born in Greece, and then he emigrated to Russia, but then in the end he got a knighthood, I think, in the United Kingdom. So he was someone who was all over Europe, all over the world, and he spoke half a dozen languages. And then we decided, yeah, maybe he does, but none of them perfectly. And so we slipped also another things in there. When he speaks Martian, the subtitles are wrong. So you can see that he mangles his Martian grammar. And it comes from this very first scene where we really struggled.
He's one of the richest men in the world during his lifetime and described as the mystery man of Europe. That's interesting. Huh?
Wow. Yeah, I'd never heard of him, and I didn't know he's actually a real person.
He looks like a steampunk character, though, definitely.
Oh, yes. That was also a lucky find. I didn't know about him before, but when we started research for the film, we were looking at interesting people from the time and whether we could have them in there. And then we found this Basil Zaharoff character, and instantly it was like, this is a very interesting person, and what a life, and how where he was and who he was friends with, where he was an arms dealer, and he worked every side of every conflict. But in the end, he actually became a philanthropist, and he gave a lot of his money to charities. So a very interesting and complex character, and we try to do a little bit of an homage to him. And the actor Timo, he really got into the character, and he read his biography, and he knew everything about him. And he always complained that he had the wrong color of hair and that he didn't actually look like Basil Zaharoff. It's fine, Timo. People are not going to notice.
Yeah.
Usually, and yeah, let's hope that more people know about Basil Zaharoff, because it's a very interesting story.
Right. I mean, he did have the goatee going, which, I mean, maybe not the right color, but hey. And another thing I think that's funny is I'm looking on the Wikipedia here. It says he sometimes delivered fake or faulty machinery, which kind of goes along with your guys' storyline too.
Yes, that's where we picked that up. Yes, there's a story that he sold submarines, small First World War submarines, both to the Russians and to the Turks when the tension was high between them. And those submarines had, when they fired one torpedo, they'd keel over and sink. Which seems to me to be a waste of material.
The ultimate rip-off.
Oh yes. So yeah, he was not always very successful, but yeah.
Yeah. We got a question from the chat room from our moderator looking for truth, Miss Moderator. She asks, how long did it take to make the movie, and how much did it cost to make? We probably covered some of this, but just generally speaking, can you give us an idea at all?
We shot the movie over 1.5 years, and that's because this was not a normal production. We couldn't afford to have all the people working on it for several weeks all the time. So we had to stretch it out over a few weekends and a few weeks over this 1.5 years. And one of our lead actresses, Chris Fana, who plays the Martian princess, she had very severe health problems while we were shooting. Yes, so she was in the hospital several times, and at some point it was actually a very close call for her.
Oh gosh, what did she come down with?
But it was a very private thing.
Sorry.
But it was, yeah.
I thought maybe it was something to do with the filming or something, but that's fine. Yeah, that's terrible.
And so there were a lot of delays there, and then post-production was also a lot longer. So it took us 3 years, I think, to get it all together in the end.
Really?
From
Wow.
starting to. starting to actually shoot the movie
Wow.
until we had everything done. And the cost, let me look at it. How what we did on Kickstarter didn't cover the expenses for the movie. So it's actually hard to say how much money went into it completely.
Yeah.
So we did nearly 30,000 euros on Kickstarter for the film.
That's pretty good.
But that is really pretty good.
Excellent. Yeah.
Absolutely surprising.
Yes.
And I think it owes a lot to the fact that people really love the setting and the role-playing game. And then I think we chucked in at least 10,000, somewhere between 10 and 20,000 of extra money out of our own pockets over the years. It's hard to say because it's a lot of small sums that add up in the end.
How would you say the film has gotten? How has the reception been for the film? Has it had a good reception, or?
Well, internationally,
yeah,
the feedback from all backers has been good.
Yeah.
In Germany, radio silence mostly.
Really?
And
You guys...
yes, yeah.
Oh.
So some people come to us just privately at conventions and things and say, yeah, I watched it and I liked it and this is cool. Then there's some people who are just going, nah, I couldn't watch it. Not my cup of thing. Production value too low. Your actors are bad. Things like that. Your effects are terrible.
Yeah.
No, really, that's the German mindset also. And the German way to go about these kind of projects. And yes.
Yeah, so that was one of the questions we had went over, where the German mindset is of do it right or don't do it at all. And it can be tough for your low budget genre, right?
Yeah, it's generally genre films have a tough time in Germany, and there's people out there who produce genre films and a lot higher budget and with lots more effort, and they have a hard time.
Yeah.
So,
well, I really admire your guys' passion and your drive to do this, because as myself, I've always aspired to create film too, and I know it's always never going to be. If I was to ever do it, even with the budget you had, or maybe even a little more, I would hope it would turn out as good as what you guys created. I thought it was great. Can I ask you, what kind of camera did you use for this film?
We mostly filmed with the Panasonic Lumix. Different versions of the same camera because we upgraded during the film. So not what you usually would call professional equipment, but the upper class hobbyist equipment, basically. Yeah. What we also use for a lot of the things we do on our YouTube channel, and that's a lot cheaper than working with the next tier, basically, of equipment. And it also made it possible to bring the equipment into China, because if we went there with something that looked more professional, that would be harder. But actually those cameras that are basically they look like a photo camera, so the body and everything. But this kind of camera, there's also a few versions of Canon cameras for the same purpose. That's what you also see on conventions, a lot of things nowadays, because it's lightweight equipment also.
Yes.
And
it's getting better.
They actually, yes, and they actually have a very nice and crisp and clean picture that they produce. It's a far cry from film. Of course, it's got a different kind of light and color, but also the software to work over what you've done later on has been coming along in leaps and bounds.
Gosh,
so.
All you got to do is get on YouTube to see that. Almost everybody has the capability to do, what Hollywood could do with post-editing.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any other plans to make another movie? Are you excited to be acting again? You're gonna be another lead actress here soon?
When we finished this project, I basically said to my husband, let's not do this again.
Really?
It
Why
was
not?
a very trying time.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it was
It's an
so
adventure.
much work. It was. And then after the adventure part is over, you spend another year post-production. And the
that's
people
gotta be
who
tough.
told you, yeah, we're going to chip in, we're going to help out, they stop working on it one after another because they realize, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. And everyone was doing it in their free time, so I'm not in any place to complain. So I'm glad for every little bit some people helped, but in the end it was just the two of us and chugging along and doing mediocre effects, teaching ourselves how to work all of this. And but this is at some point it's just grinding along. And I think most people who do any kind of production, and it's just heartwarming to see that even the absolute professionals say the same thing. So I've been cheering myself up watching interviews with really the high class Hollywood directors and writers, and they all say it's at some point you're going to hate your project, and at some point you're going to be glad that you're to just be done. So yeah, and by now we're slowly coming at the point where we say, yeah, we might do this again, but right now we're more of looking at doing smaller things and maybe doing online series of different genres. And yeah, we're trying out a few little ideas, and we did a comedy series for the Dark Eye role-playing game. Also just a fun low budget thing that was done over a few weekends, and maybe we're going to do more in that vein. I'm not sure whether there's going to be another big one, another project like Space 1889, but I have to say that we're also having a good run over the last 2 years financially with our community, because we are on Patreon, which is a site where you can support artists of any kind whose work you like. So there's a lot of illustrators there, and also a lot of podcasters and a lot of YouTubers. And we've got a very lovely community who like what we do and who actually help us out with an amazing amount of money each month, which makes it possible.
Yeah, what's your info on Patreon? We can shoot this over the podcast to maybe help you out.
Yes, it's also Orkenspalter TV.
Oh gosh.
Thing is, most what we do is in German still, but we're actually looking for to doing more things in English, because I'm more and more comfortable with talking freely in English.
Yes, you are.
Doing more things.
Do you speak the best out of everybody on the cast and crew in English?
Hagen, who plays Daddy Armstrong or Uncle Armstrong, he's also very good. He studied abroad. He studied in York, I think, and but he's very posh sounding. I didn't know whether it's intentional, but he always sounds very stiff and very British when he speaks English. And yes, I think from all the people we worked with, I'm maybe the person with the most natural, most relaxed way of just talking freely.
Yeah. Looks like we pulled up your Patreon. It's, what is that? Orkenspalter? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Yes.
Orkenspalter.
Orkenspalter. Sorry. I'm trying. I'm learning.
Yeah. It
sounds
much more aggressive in German.
Yes, it does. It's creating videos, LARP, fantasy. Cool. We pulled that up. Eddie, you can put the link in the description. That is pretty cool. Any major video games or stuff you guys get into that are pretty popular? Obviously we've all probably heard of Warhammer 40K. Not too much about Space 1889, but any other big sort of games you guys get into with LARP and fantasy or any kind of video thing?
Yeah, of course, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
That's the one. Which is an all-time favorite. Yes. And what we do is also we're doing actual play of tabletop role-playing games, which for 10 years back, I wouldn't have thought would actually work. And we tried it several times back then, and people were hesitant to do tabletop role playing in front of the camera because it's a private thing usually.
Yeah.
But then we found a group of people who were comfortable with that, and there were more international people who did it, and who did it very successfully, like High Rollers and the Mid Mercer group. And they're also a big push, I think, for tabletop role-playing games, the entertainers who do this. And more people were interested. And we're doing a lovely actual play of Dungeons & Dragons right now run. And we do Call of Cthulhu games every now and then, which I love because I'm very much into the moody horror scenarios.
Horror, huh?
Yes, Call of Cthulhu is this Lovecraftian game from the 80s, which is still going strong, and it's also spawned a lot of video games and things like that. And I think that's not going to go away. And there's a German tabletop role-playing game from the 80s, The Dark Eye, which is very medieval fantasy, a bit more down to earth than Dungeons and Dragons, for instance. And we've been supporters, and we've loved it since I was 12. I've been playing it since I was 12. Wow. It was the first role playing I played. So yeah, early adopter.
Nice.
Yeah, you start them out at an early age, they're never going to quit. And yes, so those are the big things, and we try to get into smaller things and try out different things. And there's a lot of role-playing games out there, and you're probably going to find one for your favorite series or your favorite movies or your favorite genre. So there's a Doctor Who role-playing game out there that I really like, and there's a Star Trek role-playing game, and of course several iterations of a Star Wars role-playing game. And we try to dig into those and find different things and try them out and present them to people. And yes, and I'm also very fond of the Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Fantasy games and genres, which are very much over the top. And so Warhammer 40k is grim, dark future, far future science fiction, and it's so grim, gritty, and bloody, and over the top that it's kind of it's for me it's ironic. It's so far beyond anything that would be that you can take seriously, that it's really awesome in its own kind of way.
Yeah.
So yes, it's broad spectrum.
Yeah, so you definitely have experience with tabletop games, but as far as the acting, if there's somebody out there listening to this podcast and they're aspiring to be an actress or an actor, what's some advice you could give them that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, since I stumbled my way into this, and I don't consider myself to be a professional actress. I just happen to be in camera all the time.
Right.
Well, you can go the classical route. You can go to an acting school, or you can study in university, and that's probably the right and the good way to do it, because in the end you actually have something where it says that you learned this, and where you can go with the final notes and everything and look for a job. But I don't think anything tops pure luck.
Yeah.
Just simple, pure luck and timing, and being in the right place and getting to know the right people. And I never do this, the thing I do now, if everything that I had planned for my life would have worked out. Because I was I was studying sinology, and I was on track to become academic.
Yeah.
And to teach people how to translate Confucius and Lao Tzu and old Chinese texts,
right,
and study medieval China and things like that. And this, what I do now as a job, that was just a hobby.
Right.
And it just happened.
Well,
and I think the one thing I'd tell everyone is just let these things happen. Just take the coincidences and use them to your advantage. Don't try to plan everything. That's not going to work.
That's such good advice, because oftentimes we find that life being serendipitous as it is along the way, if you can find a way to make money from your hobbies, man, that's a good way to make a living, right? and you being into this tabletop games, do you feel that the academic route, that even though you didn't decide to go down that route, instead going this route was the best choice for you?
I've actually struggled with that for
Yes.
quite some time because I quit my studying when I was nearly there, when I was nearly done, and I did it for several reasons. I did it. One of the biggest things were health issues at the time, and I was on strong medication, and it was very hard for me to stay awake because the medication was making me dizzy and tired all the time, and I was dropping out of classes. And at some point, I realized I can't go on like this, and I need a break. And the break turned into I quit, and that was a very hard moment for me. And I for years I kept all my notes and all my books and everything from the time, and I moved around Germany quite a lot for different jobs, and I took it with me. And then there was a time when I was working for a company that did magazines for video games, and I was there making videos and editing videos and writing articles. And I realized at some point, and my husband was working there too, we both moved there, we realized we were simply really not happy doing what we were doing there. And at that point, we plunged into the cold water. We just took the leap of faith and we quit. We simply quit our job at a
Good
point
for
where
you.
we
Yes.
point I was not quite sure.
Bravo.
We just did it. And the thing is, in Germany, which is absolutely awesome and which makes me thankful for living here, is when you do this and when you say, I'm going to be on my own now, I'm trying to start my own career, you can actually go to the state and you can say, I'm trying to start my own career, please. There's programs to set you up on your feet, and you can apply for a grant for a year and maybe longer, and they just help you to get into your new job. And you have to talk to a lot of people, and you have to write a lot of things, and you have to go to a lot of different places and get papers here and another someone to sign off there, and it's kind of, you jump through a lot of hoops, but in the end, actually, the state is going to help you. And this might sound weird to American ears. It actually works, and it gets people on their feet and gets people on the track.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that worked out. And I wouldn't have made it for the first year without that grant, because in the beginning you have to find clients, and
Yes.
I did video production and voiceover work and translations and things like that during the time, and it was just getting by. My husband and me together, and just basically scraping by.
Yeah.
And then it just picked up momentum, and we built a community, and we just kept going and kept working, and everything fell into place. And I'm not going to say it wasn't hard work, and we're still working a lot.
Right.
And it's hard to say where work ends and where hobby begins, because most things I do in my spare time are also kind of part of my job, and my job is also part of my spare time, and just everything just meshes together at some point. But it also was a lot of luck and a lot of helpful people out there who were just at some point or another saying, hey, I like what you're doing. I'm just going to help you. I have an idea for this. Do you need that? Do you need a place to crash during this convention?
Yeah.
Can I take you to this place? Do you need a car? Really, things like that. Very, very
Great
simple,
people out there.
friendly things. Yes, and then it makes you believe in
Yes.
people.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm absolutely happy that we did that. I think 2 years back, I finally got everything I still had from back when I studied. And I think apart from the books, which I'm still going to keep because they are lovely and they look good on my shelf, I threw out my notes. And I just said, it gave me a lot of things, and I wouldn't miss the time at university at all. And it's not as bad to to study and quit in Germany as it would be in most places in the US, because you don't have to rack up that amount of debt studying in Germany.
We have that debt here.
Yes, we're evil socialists, but works out well for me. So
Oh yeah.
I don't have a lot of debt. I actually didn't have any because I was very lucky to get a scholarship early on. And I wouldn't miss the time for anything because I learned a lot of things, and it was actually a very good school for translating even other languages, because ancient Chinese is very tough to translate, and if you can do that, you can do anything.
Oh, I bet. Was that your major? What was your major?
Yes. That was my major. That was Chinese, and that is a very broad thing, and I was specialized in ancient Chinese.
Oh wow.
This spectrum. So yes, I did a lot of translation of texts that were 2,000 years plus old.
Wow.
And I loved it, and it was a great time, and I learned a lot of helpful and beautiful things. But I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was a good moment to say I think I found my place, and I think I found something that I'm really just happy with working on.
Yeah.
And also, what I can always tell people is try to do as many different things as you can.
Yes.
So
keep yourself busy.
Keep yourself busy and try to branch out, because you're never going to know if one thing is going to work out or not.
Yeah.
And if you have different things going on at the time, if one thing falters a little bit, you still have 4 other things keeping you going.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you had said that you had right. And you had said that you had translated ancient Chinese texts. Did you learn anything from those? Did you find any little golden nuggets of anything that helped you with that?
Actually, what helped me in my life was stumbling into ancient Taoist texts.
Oh, yeah.
So Taoism nowadays is a religion, but the very first texts are more like one of the very first is basically just a how to rule handbook for kings and princes.
Oh.
And another one is just a very exuberant and beautiful text about how to view the world and how to let things go. That's Zhuangzi, and it's still one of my absolute favorite texts from the time I studied. And these early Taoist tenets were basically the world is ever changing.
Yes.
You're not going to do a lot about it, so just accept that the world is ever changing and that it's going to work itself. Everything
is
going to
do what it wants. Yeah.
Yes. So for the world, it's best if people don't do too much. So don't try to change the world too much. Just find yourself a place in it and find your own happiness with what happens.
Right.
And just basically, it's hard to break it down to these simple hallmark statements, but it's just basically go with the flow and don't stress so much.
Life's like a river, right? You can't pedal backwards or else you're just going to suffer more. So you might as well go with the flow of things. I mean, oftentimes we talk to you and you're in your path and it seems different to us, but we can see where it's led you. Where's it leading you now, though? If you were to picture life as a river, what's up around the bend for you? What do you see in your future as far as what you're hopeful for? Future projects?
Writing, lots of writing, which had to take a backseat for quite some time in between with a lot of other projects, but I'm lucky that right now there are people actually believing in what I do and who said, okay, please write a novel for us about this. It's still hard to wrap my head around that people would order a novel from me without me ever having written one. So they know short stories from me and other things, but one publishing house just came up and said, oh, we want something bigger from you. And I really enjoy that work, to really delve deeply into text. So more writing, looking into also publishing more for role-playing games too, because that's going to be my big love forever, I think, and just doing more of my own things in this vein. And we do a lot of reviews, and we do a lot of I read so much text. um, I absorb so much things from other people, and I'm kind of chafing at the bit a little bit to write more of my own. And I've been doing it for the last few months and enjoying it very much. So producing more text, writing more, and then I think over the next few years, being back in front of the camera. Maybe not with another Space 1889, but I don't know what's going to happen. So maybe just going with what's going to happen, what people we meet, what's coming up next, and happy coincidences, hopefully along the way.
I think you should definitely get back in front of the camera. And when I watched the movie, I didn't know a whole lot about you, and I was like, she's the main actress because she's been in a lot of films. Like, I honestly thought you were a very experienced actress. So when you came on here and told us that you hadn't done a whole lot, I was like, really? Wow, and yeah, I definitely think you should, and don't forget about us little podcast people when you're famous.
So if I'd ever be famous, I surely wouldn't forget you. No, I'm really enjoying my time talking to you here, and you should see me. I'm sitting here and just smiling and brimming with joy. And it's you mentioned
awesome.
you were covered under a snowstorm, so
Yes, we're in a snowstorm right now. It is crazy.
It's midnight here right
Wow.
now.
Yes,
Just
it is
coming
nuts.
down. How's the weather there?
and yes, here it's really lovely, and sun is coming up in half an hour, I think. So it's starting to get a little bit lighter outside, and it's the time of year that they call the old lady summer is coming around, where you have fog early in the morning, and then the spider webs are like white hair in between the trees and the bushes. So very
Wow.
lovely time of the year, unlike
Wow.
your snowstorms.
Yes.
So yes, I'm starting this Sunday in a very, very good mood, thanks to you. So.
Awesome. Do you reside in Germany right now?
Mhm.
Awesome.
I'm right now. I'm near Frankfurt, like 3/4 of an hour north of Frankfurt, in a lovely mountain range called the Taunus. So beautiful
Ooh,
place to live.
beautiful.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, my wife and I are actually planning a trip for Europe and actually Germany because we both
Ooh.
have family from there. And honestly, I cannot remember the name of the town. But we're thinking of going in I think it's 2 years from now. So I'm very excited for that.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If you come here, just tell me beforehand if you need any tips or anything. So let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you
I
start.
love meeting people from all over the world.
Oh yeah. You started writing again. You said what's your latest projects, or what's something you're working on now as far as writing goes? Is it something in this role playing genre or
Hmm.
fantasy?
Yeah, it is. Right now, I'm working on a fantasy novel for the Dark Eye role playing game, which has branched out internationally again. It did once back in the 80s, early 90s, but it's been out internationally in English again now. And I kind of stumbled my way into being an expert on one of the big bads of the role-playing game. So there's an evil high elf lady who's been around for quite a long time, and she's one of the original baddest women of the Dark Eye. And my husband and me, we wrote a solo adventure, which is kind of a choose your own adventure book about her, and people enjoyed it. And then I hooked up with the author who originally invented her back when he wrote for The Dark Eye. And he's one of the best known fantasy authors in Germany right now, Bernhard Henn. Some of his books, I think he was talking to someone to bring them out in English too. So in Germany, he's actually sold millions of books, and he's still a very lovely, humble guy.
Yeah.
And I was again very lucky that he said, I like your ideas for this character, and I love that someone is doing something with her again. And he's also writing about her in another series of novels that he's doing, and he thought, well, maybe we can just do more of this and branch this out. And he kind of playfully suggested at some point where we were doing an interview with him about something else, oh, why don't you write a novel? And I was like, haha, yeah, right. No, I'm serious. I think you could do it. And then we went to the people who have the rights to the character, and they said, that's a nice idea. How about 3? And it said, talk about a lucky break again.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why people trust me to do this, because I haven't done anything of the scope before in writing, I think. Maybe word count, yes, I wrote a role-playing campaign, but writing a role-playing adventure and writing a novel are 2 different things.
Yes. Yeah.
And yes, absolutely different way to work on text. And so yes, that's I'm working on. So it's going to be something that spans thousands of years, and it's about one of the most powerful and evil creatures in this fantasy world. And yes, I've been working with her more, doing a short story about her a little bit back, and things like that.
Evil,
and it's it's very interesting to have this character and to not do this apologetically. Because there's been novels about the evil characters from this game. It's been running since the 80s. There's hundreds of novels where the big bads of this role-playing game, where people have dived into why are they evil, and it's because they've been hurt by other people and things like that. And I'm like, no, she is evil. So she's not the protagonist. So she's also the main antagonist of the novels I'm writing. But I just love having the scheming, completely remorseless creature as the main antagonist, and it's a very interesting ride. And here's hoping that it actually works out in the end and people enjoy it. Hard to know before you actually have a book out there.
Yeah, and it seems like you've gotten a lot of lucky breaks from just talking to you. You've mentioned at least quite a few. So I imagine if you're playing a tabletop role-playing game, you probably roll the dice really well, I'd imagine.
No. Actually not.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I'm the game master most of the time, so that's probably a lucky break for the players. I have almost ridiculous bad luck rolling dice. Maybe that's kind of to even out the luck I've had in life in many aspects. But yeah, so basically this is kind of what do you call it, survivor prejudice or something. Then some stories are full of lucky breaks because the story wouldn't be at the point it is right now. I wouldn't be here talking to you if I hadn't had the lucky breaks, though they're part of my story.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, that's like life too. We find that a lot of the things we can say, oh well, I did them, they're my accomplishments. Well, we can't do them without help from others a lot of the times, and it's just so cool hearing about this story about you making the film and other people obviously involved, and then along the way you find somebody who's a role player who's into the games, and he's like, yeah, you can film at my location and all that. That's so great. But I wanted to ask you about the writing part. Is where do you get a lot of your motivation for writing, your creativity? Is there a well you dive in for that? Is there something you go to every time you need to find a new scenario, a new plot?
Lots of the things that I work with is actually just traveling.
Yeah.
Because especially if you write in the fantasy genre, I think there's nothing that helps you as much as traveling and just encountering different places, trying different foods, trying out different languages, talking to people with a cultural background that is very, very different from your own. Yeah. And if you can't afford it, because not everyone is as lucky to afford to travel regularly. And I'm absolutely aware of how privileged I actually am, especially also as a German, because with my passport, I can go almost anywhere in the world.
Wow.
With very little hassle.
Can you go to Antarctica?
It's not part of any state, so I could go to Antarctica like any other person and pay a lot of money to get there and then freeze to death. Yes, basically, I can. So I think the only place I really definitely the hardest place probably would be like for everyone North Korea and
Yeah, right. You wouldn't want to
some
go to Antarctica
Turkish state.
anyways, because it's just like it is here right now. It's snowing like crazy.
I just could go to Colorado visit you and I have the same
yes,
experience.
exactly. So, Mháire, I got to ask you the most important question of the night. If I come to Germany, what's the best food to eat there? What's the
The
most
best food
tasty?
to eat here. Do you eat meat?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you're going to be happy here.
Great.
Yes, the traditional German diet is very meat rich. Try sausages. We do mean sausages,
I
very
bet.
very good ones. So try different local versions of sausages in any combination and way, and schnitzel, of course. Yeah, and so from the place I grew up, I wouldn't recommend anything because for some very strange reason in my hometown, people are very much into entrails, and
Oh.
I never got that. But sausage and bread. The one thing I miss when I'm abroad for more than a week is German bread,
Oh
honestly,
really?
What's different
because
about it?
no one in the world knows how to do it right. Um, American bread is this
It's
fluffy,
crap.
textureless
Yeah.
thing that
It's-
tastes mostly just sweet.
Yeah, it was
And that's
born in
not
a
bread.
Walmart warehouse, probably.
Yeah. So German bread it's got texture. Yeah. You chew your bread. In Germany, bread chews you. So, and with a good crust and a very very nice and fluffy but still texturized insides and,
Yeah.
and a good malty taste. That's bread. So try bread and sausage if you're over here.
Awesome.
Will
awesome.
do.
Yes. So where can people find you on social media to follow you? Are you on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit?
I'm on Facebook. You can find me as Mháire Stritter. Oh, I should probably put the name in the chat too because
Yeah,
it's
there's a little A
you,
with
you
an
would
apostrophe on
yeah, yeah,
top.
right.
There you go.
Wouldn't guess
Right
what it's
there.
written
Yes.
like. And you can find me on Instagram, where you can make me see me making goofy faces in costumes
Oh.
or showing off my miniature painting
you
skills
pull one
and things I'm working on and places I go. I do have a Twitter account, and I only know because someone mentioned it to me. I set it up years ago, and I probably never wrote anything on it. So
Yeah.
don't go there.
I found it. There is no picture. I think I followed you.
Oh, someone in the chat says there's good bread in the US. You have to tell me where. I never found it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you can go to these natural food places and find it,
Mhm.
but yeah, most of it's just what
we got
bleached bread, bleached white.
yeah.
I don't know.
We got good burgers and pizza and things like that, but I don't think I found great bread either.
I don't know. There's
Oh,
a
yeah,
what's the restaurant
some
called?
burger places make a mean brioche. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's been getting pretty popular around here.
So is there any other programs or any other projects you have going right now that you'd like to plug other than the one we brought up? What was that on? That was on Patreon. We brought that up
Yes.
already. Yeah. But is there any other places that you're working on or? Yeah, that we brought up the poster artwork. Look at that. Who did the poster artwork? But by the way, first.
That's a German artist. He does a lot of these retro style posters
is great.
for conventions, things like that. And I write, yeah, there you got it, Martin Schlierkamp. And he's actually a pretty young guy, pretty. And when I first saw his art, I was like, "Wow, this guy, he must have learned in the 70s." No,
Well, it kind of
my
does look like Star Wars poster or
Very
something.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's got this awesome retro style of painting, and this is a real oil painting.
Oh, wow.
And yes, I'm still thinking about buying the original, but of course, since it's a real oil painting, that's going to cost me a pretty penny.
Right.
Oh god, that sounded very Victorian. Pretty penny. So Yeah, still thinking about it, and we've got a deal. If he's not sold it to someone else within the next 1.5 years, I'm probably going to buy it. And I
Nice.
think it's just a lovely work, and he does a lot of,
It
of
is.
great cover work and a lot of really beautiful posters. And if there's conventions here, science fiction conventions, they often order posters from him, so they look like a Star Wars cover. And that's how we got to know him and decide if we want to have a painted cover, it's going to be by him. And we were very lucky that he had the time and to do this. And he was very nice. He's a very down to earth and mellow person, and he was very nice and said he really enjoyed working on it and put in
Oh, I'm
extra time
sure.
just for fun. So
It's a
lucky break
beautiful.
again.
Yeah, Lucky Break again, and it's a beautiful work of art. Absolutely. Um, all right, Myri. Well, we appreciate you so much for coming on the show. Thank you again. We're gonna put links in the description to the video. You guys need to go over there, rent the movie, check it out. We'll have it in the description, but we're gonna go ahead and play the trailer before we, um, right after we let you go here. Is there anything you'd like to add to anybody listening out there today?
Guys, go out there and find tabletop role playing games. It's a great pastime. You're going to meet a lot of great and awesome and geeky people playing it, and there's something for everyone. And it's made my life, I think, richer and better. And I learned a lot of things just playing, interacting, and it's a great way to try out different facets of your personality. And just it's a game, but it's also a good way to interact and to grow as a person.
To
So
connect too. That
yes,
is
so then don't panic. There's a lot of weird things about role playing games out there. It's harmless fun
that is the
and beautiful hobby. So
that is the
try it.
most unique advice I've ever heard in life ever. That is awesome.
It's very specific,
That
yes.
is
So
great. Great.
find something that makes you happy, and if it's role playing games, I'm going to be happy too.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Myri, for coming on. Like we said, we got your links in here, and you did a fantastic job. We thank you so much. It's an honor to speak with you. And if you have any projects coming up in the future, let us know.
We'll let you.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Oh, we'd
we
love to
go.
have you back on
Uh,
anytime.
Oh, lovely. I really enjoyed my time. Thank you for bringing me on the show, and I hope you're going to be able to leave the house tomorrow.
We'll see.
Going to be snowed in for the next few days. So.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you have a
Luck.
good morning in Germany.
Thank you. I will. Goodbye.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
So we're gonna go ahead and play the trailer here real quick, and we'll come right back. And we're gonna take live calls with Deep Eddie.
Going deep into the murky waters.
Yes, great. Mháire Stritter, everyone, from Space 1889, The Secret of Phobos. Great show. Go ahead and play the trailer, and we'll be right back. The number you need to call will be on the screen. Thank you so much. Yeah, we know there's no sound. I don't know what the hell's going on here. That's weird.
We'll link the
Anyways, the
trailer.
number's on the screen, 818-659-0055. You can check the trailer out. We'll put the link in the chat to the trailer. I don't know
Yes.
why the audio isn't working. This is weird. It could be the snowstorm. I bet it is. 818-659-0055. Call in. Who was on GLP saying they were going to call in tonight?
What do you guys want to talk about?
I'm not sure. Why is that audio not playing?
I'm not
She
sure.
got audio problems tonight.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I am a newbie.
No, he's not a
Engineer.
newbie. This is weird. This is the government. Oh, no. Is it? Yeah.
Is it media source?
Yeah, bring that up.
Schlüssel
There
nennen.
you
Das
go.
ist sehr schön zusammengefasst.
Wasn't this device
Replay it.
part of your ship?
We're going to replay it. We'll be right back. 818-659-0055. Just switch.
The Martians are savages. This is the Empire. We do things by the book.
We believe a group calling itself the Worm Cult is planning attacks on British positions. And they're also holding a French national captive.
Well, good you could come on such short notice.
Hello, Uncle. I'm guessing you've produced another eligible bachelor of noble birth who will keep me from my unseemly shenanigans and with whom I will only have to put up with the slightest of incest-related defects.
I do think it is about time that you left all that adventuring who's more fit to go on such travel, men preferably. Although all the world seems to think you're male anyway, which makes finding a spouse for you somewhat of a challenge.
It's an honor to meet the famous Will Armstrong. He did so much for our people by retrieving the idol of Quaxul from Dalor and his pirates.
Just doing my duty as a citizen of the Empire.
Whereas I wonder, when will we get our idol back?
Ich kann bald meine Schulden bezahlen. Alle.
Indem du Kopfgelder einsammelst?
Du meinst die Belohnung dafür, einen armen Schiffbrüchigen gerettet zu haben? Indem ich meine Fracht dort ablade, wo sie bestellt wurde. Die Zoos auf der Erde zahlen bis zu 2000 Pfund für ein lebendiges Weibchen.
Und Sie sind der Captain, eine Frau. Ich habe wohl wirklich einiges verpasst.
Nicht genug.
Suchst Wissen über den Wurmkult?
Ich sehe manchmal Orte. Verschwommene Gestalten. Sie scheinen nach mir zu rufen.
Wie es scheint, trägst du etwas in dir, einen Funken. Er lockt die Geister der Kanalbauer an.
Then you will be taken to your room and confined there, like the sullen child that you are, for your own safety.
Wir werden endlich den Mond Schaltdorek erreichen und unser Volk rächen.
Armstrong und Edison müssen sterben. Ich verlange, dass Sie mich auf den Mars absetzen.
Wir fliegen zur Erde. Das müssen Sie verstehen.
Ich verstehe nur, dass Ihr reicher Onkel Ihnen dieses schnelle Schiff zum Geburtstag geschenkt hat, damit Sie Kopfgeldjägerin spielen können.
Dann pass mal auf, dass dein Gesicht nicht bald auf einem dieser Plakate landet.
Captain, wir haben ein neues Problem.
Fräulein, ich habe in meinem Leben schon eine Menge Menschen getroffen. Und Sie sind garantiert eine Grabräuberin.
Vielleicht bin ich dann genau das, was Sie brauchen.
Und jeder dahergelaufene Bastard denkt, er könnte sich einfach mein Schiff schnappen. Und wissen Sie überhaupt, wer diese Leute hier sind?
Ja, das ist Bratisarov, ein Waffenhändler. Er und seine marsianischen Kumpane haben dieses Schiff von ihrem Onkel überschrieben bekommen und sie sind auf der Suche nach etwas, was sich Graviton-Schlüssel nennt.
Das ist sehr schön zusammengefasst.
Wasn't this device part of your ship?
Now you believe to get away with all that?
Oh, I believe I can get away with a lot more than that.
The Martians are savages. This is the Empire. We do things by the book.
We believe a group calling itself the Worm Cult is planning attacks on British positions. And they're also holding a French national captive.
You have no idea what you're up against.
No, I don't. That's what makes it an adventure.
Charge!
Weiß sie, was sie da tut?
Meistens nicht. Aber es kommt immer etwas dabei heraus.
Ja.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Who is on the line? Renaissance Ted. How you doing, Ted?
Yeah, not bad at all. Let me find a good parking spot here.
Oh, he's got to pull over. Safe driving. Safe driving. Eddie, do you drive safe?
Yes. My company
I am in
makes
it.
me.
Yes.
Yeah, I caught the interview. That was great, Rich.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce her name? Maria?
It's Mháire Stritter. Yeah, she was pretty cool.
Mháire.
Yes.
Oh, that was a great interview.
That was a
that's
great
the best.
guest. We were really happy with that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks a lot, Ted.
Oh, no problem, no problem. I thought, very, very lucky on my part, too. I love their movie. It was pretty good. I watched it myself. So.
Yeah, it was great. A lot of good parts in there. It makes me interested as I'd love to make a film, but I'm worried that it would churn out like. Don't you think so? So Ted, tonight you had something about the ether?
Yeah, actually, and I hate to contradict your previous guest slightly, but once I started digging into this, it didn't take too long before we find that. There were there were ether propulsion airships. There were papers on magneto-electrogravitics way back in the 1890s, and we got a lot of stuff. We had Prussians, by the way, who were involved in the Nimza Society, who came to America and were building airships of odd propulsion using electrogravitics back all through the 1800s.
Wow.
So what are electrogravitics?
Well, in the way they work at least how they're discussing how they work in the works of Charles Delschow, which I actually got the book. They're trapped in my post office box. I didn't get back to the post office today. I just came back into town yesterday. However, anyway, the way they describe that these things work is they have a rotating drum upon which they drip a secret chemical. So we have a chemical with a rotating drum, and some of the same companies that financed this later financed the Nazi Bell research. So you see where we're going with this.
Yeah, pull that up, Eddie. Pull it up on the screen. Charles Delschow.
Yeah, exactly. And Delschow drew some fanciful airships in painting format, but Delschow was an engineer, and there is engineering stuff right there inside of those fanciful paintings.
Yeah, Go ahead.
Oh, so one of the the various airships that he designed in his book there have various names, and one of them is the Aero Trump. There was apparently a man named Homer Trump involved in all this.
Wow.
Yeah, this looks like an early example of Delschau's work on Scientific America. That's interesting. So, what do you think the secret liquid was he was using? Is this the red mercury we're talking about?
There's some interesting things, during the Nimza Society came to the Sonoran Desert in the 1850s to begin testing their airships, and literally hundreds of thousands of people saw these airships across the country at various times. And then there seemed to be a splintering or a factioning between the Prussian side and the American side. And, then they kind of follow slightly different paths, but it continues on all the way up to the 1890s when they had the famous airship flap. And those ships they're talking about, they're traveling hundreds of miles an hour, and they're using large floodlights and electricity and various things you'd associate with modern aircraft.
Yeah.
Now back to the propulsion system. They were using a chemical that they dripped on a rapidly rotating drum. Ooh. And when I say rapidly, they're talking about things rotating in terms of, say, 60,000 rotations per minute. They're really rotating.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like a centrifuge where they use that with. Don't they use that with blood to see how many hard metals are in your blood or whatever? They centrifuge it.
I think so.
Yeah, this would actually be somewhat the opposite of that in terms of centripetal force, because the other component is a cone. They made a cone out of rawhide, and they created a paste that they used to harden the cone. And in the paste, they would mix various metallic compounds, and then this cone would also have this secret fluid drip through the cone, and it would begin to rotate, producing electricity. And as they say, air compression, though I strongly think as opposed to air compression, we're talking about something along the lines of an implosion technology that they were actually using in these airships. And in a lot of them, it doesn't really exactly look like the lift and the propulsion is fully caused by the contents of the bag above the airship, as though that might be a cover or a supplement.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think the secret liquid or secret element to this might be something along the lines of what the Philosopher's Stone might be, or what a lot of the ancient texts referred to the Philosopher's Stone as?
That very well could be. There's the substance called orbitally rearranged monatomic elements, ORME, with David Hudson's famous work there. That actually, when you run electricity or heat through that substance, it actually loses weight. Now, combining that, some of these airships in Delshaw's books also have counter-rotating flywheels, which really very much brings to mind the work of T. Townsend Brown or Bruce De Palma, where they discovered that rotating flywheels lose mass. For instance, if you're going to say you were going to shoot a couple of steel balls out of a catapult, and one of them, you spun that steel ball up to about 50,000 RPM, and the other one, you just shot it out of the catapult.
Right.
You shoot them both out at the same tension, the same speed, and so forth like that. The rotating sphere will go quite a ways further than the non-rotating sphere, and there's nothing in Newtonian mechanics necessarily to describe that.
Wow, that's interesting. Do you think there's something with the ether? Do you think there might be an ether that light has to travel on something? Do you think it could travel on ether? Do you think?
I think that definitely needs to be delved into, because we look at Einstein's theory of relativity coming out around the turn of the century, the 19th and 20th century, and followed closely by quantum physics. I still think of those theories as mathematical cul-de-sacs. In other words, they're certainly describing something, but the theories they threw away before that were of course, the ether theories, and I actually think that those theories were brought out in order to hide the physics of the 19th century airship.
Yeah, when we've looked at this before, there was a big flap of them. People seen them in California. People seen them all across the United States, even across the globe. Very interesting. Long before the Wright brothers, right?
Yeah, that's true. And Thomas Edison specifically put out in the newspaper that he was not responsible for them.
Oh, well, that's good to know. Yeah, and we all know Tesla was onto something. I mean, he had figured something out, and Tesla had said that if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequency, vibration. What was the last one? Yeah. Frequency, vibration, and was it resonance? It wasn't resonance.
I would guess it's resonance. I mean, to me, that would be the one that would be missing there.
Well, resonance is important, but I think it was frequency, vibration, and energy. Just think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. But, he had built his famous Whiting Cliff Tower there on Long Island before he'd lost his ability to fund himself or had funding. Do you think he was onto something pretty simple, pretty basic that maybe mankind knew of before?
I would say theoretically, yes. Now slightly tracking, I guess, back to the, Tesla was funded to the tune of millions of dollars in $1,900. So he was funded quite well. It took a lot of money to build the things Tesla built, but I mean, when you imagine it, our entire modern world was essentially designed and built by, in some way, shape, or form, Nikola Tesla, and then he was, of course, scrubbed from the textbook.
Mm-hmm. Very mysterious.
Yeah, and there was a book, and I did not get a chance to get this book, but it's by Sean Casteel, Casteel, and it's an Amazon book, and this details an attempt by Nikola Tesla, who built an airship to travel to Mars.
Ooh.
So here we're right here in space 1889 territory again, and kind of like the theme of what I'm talking about tonight is this could actually be a real thing that happened. I mean, it's not entirely beyond the realm of possibility that these electrogravitic propulsion devices that they were using in these airships were actually turned to at least, if not an attempt, or if not a success, but an attempt to visit another planet. John Jacob Astor, who funded John Keely, by the way, in the Keely motor, he wrote Yeah, she penned a book back in the 1800s about an airship that traveled to Mars.
Wow. Yeah, I mean...
So, I mean, it diffuses through all of this stuff. I mean, and, it's amazingly, as I watched the movie, many points that were in the movie, I'm not sure if they were psychically divining what had actually happened, but like the Urania, I believe that was one of the banks that actually funded the airships of the 1800s.
Urania? Really?
Yeah,
that was the name
of
the name of the ship
bank.
in this movie we were just talking about.
That's right. I believe that was one of the names of the banks. And some of this research is kind of in its infancy, so everyone's still tying threads together. But let me just throw this out there. During, one of these airships was presented to Lincoln's cabinet in the Civil War as a potential weapons platform, and the deal was made officially. And then Congress was told that the inventor decided he didn't want his device to be used by the government, even though he had advanced it for that cause. And, now we look at, say Lincoln was shot in 1865. For the next 40 years, we had 4 presidents assassinated during that 40-year period at the height of airship experimentation, at the height of electrogravitic experimentation in the United States. The 1900s, that was the Wild West. And, and everyone wants to, these were spaceships that were obviously well-funded. Millions of dollars were going into these airships. So the funding stream will be found out, but it comes through Kuhn Loeb, it comes through the Warburgs, obviously from there. It comes through the Rothschilds. So we have some high finance involved in these airship companies, the airship clubs, of which there were several, and there seemed to be some splintering among the factions.
Yeah, and we see that nowadays. A lot of high-profile aerospace technology companies, like even Boeing or Northrop Grumman. I mean, they got to have some secret stuff going on. You think they've figured out something with electrogravitics? You think they've figured out something that Tesla could have figured out, 80 years ago or whatnot? Or not even that long?
I think it was figured out. I think it was covered up. I think the entire history of the 20th century I look at as a complete cover-up of the science of the 19th century. I mean, I'm starting to see everything in those terms. I mean, from the presidential assassinations. Imagine, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1965. Imagine if we had had 4 presidents assassinated between 1965 and 2005, as happened from 1865 to 1905. We had, and you look at the Kennedy assassination in particular, and this will tie back into the interplanetary civilization, right? You have type 1, you have type 2, type 3, and type 4 civilizations. Type 1 utilizes the energy output of an entire planet. A type 2 civilization, they're using the energy output of a solar system. Type 3, they're using the energy output of an entire galaxy. And then type 4, we're talking Q continuum stuff here, right out of Star Trek, for type 4.
Just tapping into something, huh?
Yeah, so let's just jump a little bit back into the John F. Kennedy assassination. That happened right on the heels of the Corona project, which was a secret spy satellite that we were supposedly using to figure out if the Russians, had missiles or this, that, or the other thing. Well, the Corona films, the Corona frames that have been actually leaked, we have a few of them now. And maybe Eddie could pull up the EnterpriseMission.com, the Enterprise Mission website. And the Corona project, when we finally got some frames, they were pointing straight up. They weren't pointing at the ground. They were pointing straight up at the moon. Specifically at the moon when the sun was just directly behind the rim of the moon is when this spy satellite was active. Pointing straight up. So, and you know what it was showing along the edges of the moon?
What's that?
Were large structures.
Yes.
And in fact, if you look at the Enterprise mission, they claim, and I find it pretty compelling, that there are large structures all over the moon. There are large structures all over Mars.
Yeah, it looks like this is hosted by Richard C. Hoagland. He's had a lot of interesting photos over the years of structures on the moon and on Mars. That's very interesting. Do you think those might be remnants of past civilizations, or do you think it's kind of a hint that there's still something there close by?
Well, I would say by the look of everything, it looks like remnants of past civilizations, or at the very least, it hasn't been rebuilt. And I would say it's the remnants of a massive war that happened, which you might find detailed in Zachariah Sitchin's Earth Chronicles, where they just blatantly out and out talk about using the mountains of power to destroy each other's planets, and knock the planet off its axis. Like in the case of Earth, I think I talked about, like, if you take a globe and drill a hole through the previous magnetic pole, which is up in one of the bays in North Quebec there, and then use that for your new axis, then the Pyramid of Giza comes out exactly at 19.5 latitude, which mirrors 19.5 latitude for the Great Red Spot of Jupiter, 19.5 latitude for the Great Blue Spot of Neptune, 19.5 latitude for the Mauna Loa volcano, 19.5 latitude for the Olympus Mons on Mars.
Dang.
I mean, my God, they're all there.
That's crazy. It's coming together, man. What does it mean, though?
And, well, that's the upwelling point of hyperdimensional physics, which is what they were touching on with electromagnetogravitics back in the 1800s, was tapping into this energy source, which, I mean, now people say, oh, that's just perpetual motion, right? But, I mean, the second law of thermodynamics only applies in a closed system.
Right.
And if you can show me a closed system in nature, I'd like to see it, because I have yet to see one. Right. Now, imagine if you couldn't see or sense the wind in any way, shape, or form. But these crazy perpetual motion inventors just bent a couple pieces of wood in a certain way and mounted it on an axle, and suddenly they start spinning. Well, I mean, if you couldn't perceive wind, that would be perpetual motion.
Yeah, right.
And that's a very similar thing with these electromagnetogravitics. There was a paper in 1893 written by Oliver Heaviside called electromagnetogravitics. And the interesting thing about Heaviside is he's the one who rewrote James Clerk Maxwell's electrical equations away from the original Quaternion algebra, where it looked like a unified field theory in 1873.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who got it rewritten into a simpler format where all those unified field implications just disappeared. And then 20 years later, he writes the theory of electromagnetogravitics.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of these projects we've seen come and go, and a lot of times they go black, and it's like some of this technology, it could be out there, and it seems that they're doing something with vacuums, they're doing something with negative pressure. I don't know if we'll ever figure it out, but I think they might.
If you want to, there's a good one. If you want to figure it out, if you want to build your own spaceship in your garage,
I do.
You can
Yes.
You can build your own full-size spaceship in your garage for about the cost of a Porsche.
Really?
You'd want to look up NASA's M drive.
Oh,
which,
the
by
EM
the way,
drive? Oh, well.
No, this is an M drive, like M,
drive.
the letter M drive.
Oh, it's not like the EM drive.
No, this is NASA's M drive. So if you look up pictures of the NASA M drive, you'll find it bears an astonishing resemblance to the pictures of the drive system of the original Del Shao airship, with the spinning cones and so forth, And so if you want to build an M drive, which people are building in their shops right now, you need a
they're basically
you need a little
cone-shaped. They're basically cone-shaped cavities that they shoot microwaves into with a magnetron. And they bounce around inside, right, and resonate, and then that sort of creates thrust. But they were kind of saying that the research was flawed in some way. I'm not really sure. I think it still needs a lot more research.
Oh, yeah, which is why I'd encourage people to build one in your garage. If you can take the guts out of a microwave oven and machine yourself up some cones.
Yeah, magnetrons are dangerous. I don't know. There's a lot of microwaves there. I guess we got microwaves bouncing around everywhere outside, though, so whatever.
Oh, yeah, we got 5G coming in. We're going to have an awful lot of them bouncing about.
5G, man. Hooked up, Verizon. Yeah, the one thing I thought was interesting, I wonder if they ever put a vacuum in that cavity. I wonder if they ever tried that. They've had to, huh? You'd think they would.
That I am not sure about, but it looked pretty doable. I mean, I was looking at it, and I'm like, you know what? I think I could build it.
Yeah, you could. Definitely you could. Oh, my gosh, man. That would be great. We'd have to do a live broadcast from your garage.
Yeah, it's not built yet. Right now it's in a pile of boards that still have not been put together. I've been moving too much in my life, I guess.
Yeah. Well, hey, man.
I mean,
are you going to build it?
You know what? I've got to work for a couple more years now, and then I'm going to go into semi-retirement after that. And then assuming I live long enough, then I can get a few things accomplished.
Yeah. Right. Well, hey, we appreciate the impromptu call in. We're gonna let you go here though, and me and Eddie are gonna take a short break, and we're gonna keep this going here. We're looking for somebody to call in, but they're all scared. They're scared. But you're not, are you, Renaissance Ted?
No, I'm always there when I can be.
All right, man. Well, hey, you take it easy. Have a good rest of your night. Keep it busy, man. Head for retirement.
Yourself
there.
as well. Yourself as well. Thanks for having me on. We'll catch you later.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
So that was Renaissance Ted. We're going to take a short break here. Go ahead and call in, folks. 818-659. No,
Please.
if you don't call in, me and Eddie are going to talk about something strange.
What do you guys want to talk about?
No, there's something strange that's been happening we got to talk about. Remember that?
That's right.
So go ahead and just, play that. Okay, so 818-659. Have you ever thought that maybe things aren't right, then maybe you're forgetting something very important. What's the most valuable possession someone has? It's a possession that's one of a kind. Yes, everybody can get a Honda Civic. Anyone can get a Samsung LED TV HD. But those possessions that are one of a kind, those are the most valuable. You'll show someone in your home and say, "Look, that's one of a kind. It's the only one made ever. Ever. No one else has this." That's you, my friends. That's you.
You little snowflakes. Just like we have outside of our window here. Let me paint the picture. We're sipping on a little bit of vodka.
A little too much?
A little too much, maybe.
It is a freaking blizzard outside right now. It is
crazy.
bad. Yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're hunkered down right now. So we're going to talk about what you guys want us to talk about. But we should start with aliens. Eddie, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you an alien?
Maybe.
Oh, no. Have you ever seen an alien? Have you ever seen somebody in public, like at the mall or something, and you're like, that mother probably is an alien?
None that come to the top of my head. I know I have, but I don't have any specific stories.
What about microwaves? Do you like using them for Hot Pockets?
I do.
Yeah.
They're really nice.
Are you worried about cell phone tower radiation at all, or that kind of Wi-Fi thing? Do you think it messes with... Do you think there's some people that are EMF sensitive at all?
Yeah, I've heard about that, and I heard some people have very extreme cases, and modern science likes to think that it's, a mental disorder, but who knows?
Yeah.
I haven't done a whole lot of research into it, but it's, all these microwaves and radio waves that we're using is relatively new.
Yeah.
Very new to the human race, and it we could very well be have a sensitivity to it.
Yeah. Eddie, that's deep. Deep Eddie. So let me ask you, if we were to find out that some people did have a sensitivity to EMF frequencies like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, RF, all this shit that's flying around everywhere, what do we do? Do we just quarantine those type of people and say, no, we need this stuff, we need Wi-Fi? Because Wi-Fi is pretty important. You can't just hook up an Ethernet cord to your phone, right?
Yeah, but then there's human rights that come into place.
Yes.
So it's like, well, do they need to have Faraday cage homes to stay in? I mean, it gets to a really weird spot that we've never been before.
They got smart meters now and all that stuff. You probably have smart meters here.
What's a smart meter?
It's like an electric meter that counts your electricity, the kilowatts you use.
Oh, right.
But it's a smart one. It like reports back with Wi-Fi or whatnot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Internet of Things, where your toaster connects to your modem.
Yeah.
No. But, yeah, somebody wants to talk about aliens? No, nobody wants to talk about aliens.
Weird alien talk. There was some Federal Reserve talk going down.
Yeah, they were talking about the Federal Reserve.
Need to talk about weather wars happening right now.
What was the one? Yeah.
Well, someone is having a snow war here.
Yeah. Like this hurricane that just hit Florida.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
Yeah.
What is this weather wars? Is this
weather wars?
Yeah.
Well, they believe that some people have the capability to control the weather with technology.
Like what we were talking about last time, that NASA thing where they can make
HAARP?
rain.
Oh,
make it rain.
What? NASA make it rain.
You don't remember that? It was that whole.
Look it up. What is it?
NASA has this facility where they draw water from this river, and they can basically vaporize it and make rain clouds with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I think so, yeah. No, I think they're like HAARP and those type of projects. It's possible.
You know, I'd play this YouTube video, but they would kick us off.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
But
They
if anyone wants to
produce
look
clouds.
it up, you can just, YouTube
NASA makes clouds.
rain clouds.
What about movies? Do you want to make your own movie? Do you think that
I
would be cool?
Love to.
Absolutely.
You
Oh my
know?
gosh. We should make a godlikeproductions.com movie. Like, we'll have like trolls and
Everything.
some guy at home posting shit on his computer and he's pissed and
Someone at home that's too scared to call us.
yeah, what's up with that? But what do you think the hardest thing about filmmaking would be if you were to tackle it? Let's say you have 50 grand. Okay, right off the bat, you can get the camera, you can get the stuff. What would be the hardest part? Would it be finding people to act?
No, I think there's abundance of that. I mean, like around the area we're in right now, there's colleges everywhere. There's starving actors there.
Oh yeah,
people that just want to get the exposure and credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, I think the hardest part would be, like Marie was talking about post-production. I'm sure that would be pretty painstaking. But the thing that I think about is how the scenes are filmed. Because you go to, one side of the country and you have to go there first, but it's the last scenes, the most dramatic, that you have to film first.
Right.
Which I think that would be pretty hard for an actor or actress where they're like,
well,
this is the most emotional part. You haven't been through anything prior, and you have to really act it out. I don't know. I always thought that might be tough.
Well, that's always the scheduling with film is that, some of the scenes based on which location you're at, you're going to have to film them first, and they're not exactly first. What about if you had a scene where you had to, like, make out with a girl and...
Or sex scenes? That would be crazy.
Yeah, right?
That would be so weird.
Don't they wear, like, those underwear that look like skin? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have rules and shit.
Yeah, that's pretty weird. I can't remember the movies. I don't like talking about stuff I don't have sources to, but there's some weird director I think I heard about where he made a movie and got a BJ or something, but
what? Was this like a casting couch
they
Hollywood pedo thing?
No, but they did it for real on the movie, and he's like, "Oh, you'll get exposure." He's like some creepy guy.
You'll get exposure. Yeah, you get some exposure, all right. No, but yeah, that would. I think the hardest part would be to find the right actors, right? Because you can always find somebody that looks like the part you want them to play.
Yeah.
But are they able to act?
Right. Being able to act is a huge thing. I think there is an overabundance of actors, though.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that there is, anyways.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make it to the top.
Well, I don't know. After we found out what the top is,
right? Yeah.
Some of these Hollywood celebrities, holy cow, they're caught up in some scandals that are just downright dirty.
Yeah, you have to give out some favors to get some.
Yeah, it's not good. But man, yeah, that was pretty cool about the movie Space 1889. It kind of reminds me of like some of these filmmakers in their early days, like George Lucas, making the Star Wars movie, the first one. A lot of those scenes were just simple stuff. Just miniaturized models and space in the background and just kind of made it happen.
Yeah, at the time it was one of a kind. He literally created a universe.
Yeah, and a lot of people resonated with it. Think about the Force, right? It's the Force. It moves through us. It guides everything. It controls, it surrounds everything. It binds us. It kind of sounds a lot like quantum physics, maybe a little bit, where we're starting to figure out that there may be this field around everything.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the ether?
Could be. There's a lot of things that they're starting to look at that it's pretty crazy. There's the where they examine particles that. Oh gosh, I'm so dumb. I don't remember what kind of particles they are, but when they examine them in real time, they're there, but they're beginning to realize that when these particles are not being examined.
Oh, you're talking about the double slit experiment, right?
Oh, well, maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
that's where they shoot like a photon, which is a single particle of light, through at a plate with two holes, and it's got to go through one or the other, right? And it goes through the holes, and it lands on a photosensitive film, and they check the film, and it looks like it's gone through both holes. So they're like, what the hell? And they put some kind of sensor at the holes to see which hole it's going through.
Wow.
Because they think it's going through both. They're like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
And they put a sensor there to observe what's happening, and then it behaves the way it should, which it only goes through one hole. And then the photosensitive film shows that. So that means the observer makes the particle behave the way it should. Or is it the observer makes the particle behave the way they believe it should behave?
Wow. That's incredible.
Belief, right. Yeah. I mean, consciousness could be molding reality, possibly.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Have you ever tried DMT?
No.
No.
I
Mushrooms?
want to. Mushrooms, yes. LSD, yes.
Wow.
It's a crazy experience. It's been so long. I definitely should try it again, but no, it is mind-bending.
Yeah. What does it feel like afterwards?
Afterward, you know what? I had the best experience after taking LSD.
Really?
Yeah.
I never got to try that.
I had a great experience before. I mean, it was pretty crazy. Like, you could feel light. You could feel it.
Really?
So, like,
That's
when a car
interesting.
headlights would hit you, you'd feel it
What?
on your skin.
Wow.
And, some people say they taste sounds and things like that.
Wow.
I mean, I never experienced that, but I could feel light, which
That's
I thought was
interesting.
pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, never had any, like, big-time hallucinations where I saw elves or anything like that. You know, but still, it definitely takes you somewhere else. And I remember my younger brother and we did it together for the first time. And, we had done tons of drugs before that. And so we were sitting out there on the porch just laying back on our chairs. And we could literally replicate the drugs we had taken before. We'd be like, okay, now I'm on painkillers.
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, wow, I feel like I'm high on painkillers. And we'd be like, okay, now we're high on marijuana. And it'd be like, wow, I feel like I'm stoned right now. Like, we could literally replicate a certain buzz through LSD. It was crazy. But the next day, I remember walking downtown and feeling really, really good. And that was actually the first time I discovered the band Queen. And I was listening to, gosh, I don't even know the name of the song.
We Are the Champions?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah. And I just felt so great. And I got out of my car. I was like, I'm not driving, I'm walking. I walked downtown and just kind of had a good time. And yeah, it's a crazy drug.
That is crazy. Yeah, and that goes back to a lot about mind over matter, right? Where they're starting to do placebo things, placebo. It's all in your mind. We have a lot of people that are hypochondriacs. They think everything in the world is wrong with them, and usually it is. And they'll make up stuff to make you feel like, oh, yeah, you got something mental going on. You need this and you need that. And then when you take this and that, it creates something that's real.
Right. Yeah.
But I think they're even doing placebo surgeries now, but I'm not sure.
I've heard of that too.
That's crazy.
That's so crazy.
Could you imagine? It's like you wake up, you think you really got a placebo surgery. Since none of you are calling, we're calling somebody right now.
Who are we calling?
A QAnon person.
Ooh.
So we're going to talk about QAnon.
Oh,
Why don't you go ahead?
This has been a hot topic, and this is something I'm not very familiar about. So I hope you guys can kind of fill me in on this.
Oh, yeah, maybe. If Hey,
how's
it going? You're on the Hidden Path podcast Who is this?
Oh, boy.
Hey, we were calling to talk to you about QAnon.
Oh, I love Q.
Do you?
Yep,
So,
I do.
can you tell us, or between the two of you, because I've never really, I don't know much about QAnon.
Yeah, describe Q.
I want to know from the beginning. Where did it start? Where did this person? I mean, I know obviously it's somebody in the Trump administration, something like that.
I can't really tell you from the beginning because I didn't really start following from the beginning. But from what I've learned is that Q is maybe military intelligence, maybe it's from the NSA, maybe this is just part of it's Trump's way of being, open or transparent about what's going on.
Okay.
It's definitely part of the Trump movement to kind of wake people up and be more aware of really what's going on.
So what do you think's going on now? Right now.
Oh, there's a lot of shit going on.
But I mean, right now,
but I don't really know.
future.
I don't really know.
No?
No, I don't know. I'm just a quiet observer.
Yeah, well, what has QAnon been posting? Why don't you pull up some QAnon stuff?
That's what I'm doing.
QAnon's real hot right
I
now.
have the phone up. Here, let me put you on speaker.
No, I don't know if speaker's going to work, but we can try it.
There's a lot of different things.
Why don't you pull that up on the stream?
All right.
Posted a few days ago and pretty much said y'all need to be a little bit more patient. You can't undo evil that's been going on for centuries.
Yeah. So he's like the good guy fighting the bad guys.
Yeah, it's kind of this war between good and evil, I think.
Yeah. Where do we go to check Q posts?
QMap.pub.
Let's go there. Let's see what
map.
Yeah, QMap.pub. Now you used to could go to Reddit. That's where I would go. That's where
Yeah,
I'm so
but Reddit don't mess with that kind of stuff. They get rid of it.
Yeah.
They don't want none of that Q stuff going on.
But they like left-hand echo chambers flourish.
It's a damn shame because honestly, there was a lot of good conversation going on there, and that's where I got most of my information was from Reddit. And now you have Vote, or you have the Chans.
Yeah.
And it's just, honestly, it's just hard to navigate. It's hard to navigate those, and it's hard to get good, intelligent conversation. Reddit was a good source for Q posts. It's just a damn shame they censored it. And apparently now, Facebook, which I'm not on Facebook and I'm not on Twitter, but
yeah,
they're following suit, just like you said a week ago or so, that it's going to be censored. It's all part of the plan.
We're having a hard time pulling up QMap.pub. No, not hub.
Oh,
pub.
I'm sorry.
No, .pub. There you go. It's right there. Just transition that over.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so let's see what Q posted recently. Thanks for this address, by the way.
Yeah, it's a long post.
Oh, wow, that's it there. Use logic and critical thinking to understand why the wheels of justice move slowly.
And this is from
what is those
QAnon?
QAnon, yeah. What are those license plates there? What the heck is that?
Is that from him as well?
Yeah, well, it's from another anonymous, and he's commenting on it. It looks like license plate matches the Chinese plate for Guangdong province.
Check the symbol.
Huh.
Wait, does he post a new one? Which one are you on?
What day? What time was that?
This
that
was
at
the
4.
September or 27th of September. So
no, well, that was a new Q there.
You need to refresh.
No, that was posted October. Go up. October 9th, right there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the latest one she's talking about. The wheels move slowly. It says exclude emotion and personal desire. Instead, use logic and critical thinking based on situational awareness. Undo a lifetime of evil and corruption in the span of less than 2 years with a corrupt DOJ and FBI in place. He's kind of got a point there. What do you think, caller?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this has been going on for centuries. I mean, come on. This has been in place forever. You can't, this is what worries me is how can you expect Trump to take down something that's been going on forever?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they say they've had this plan and it's been going on. It's an ongoing, and it's been put in place for years now, but my God, he's one man.
Yeah, well, he's definitely got some kind of...
He's got military to back him up and stuff, but, it worries me.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely got some kind of team behind him, it seems like. Because if it was just Trump and his golf buddies, I don't know.
He definitely does.
No.
And hope, he's got God on his side.
Yes.
I guess hopefully good wins in the end, but...
Hopefully.
So what's up with this, what was it, November 4th?
Huh?
Where he posted a date, and he said, was it November 4th?
Posted a date? Oh... Did he post a date?
He did.
He did, yeah. It was November 4th, right?
I don't know. He's posted a few dates.
Or was it the 5th of November? Remember.
The 5th of November. The bloodshed and treason.
It was right around there where he said there was going to be... And one of my friends was telling me, and I haven't been able to really look this up, how Trump has passed some sort of law where...
to round up human trafficking abusers?
Yeah, round up
Executive
anyone
order.
and basically claim the nation in a state of an emergency to round up people for prosecution.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, I think on this site you can check on the left hand of the screen, there's indictments or something. Keep going. Resignations, executive orders.
Oh, it might be under executive orders.
Yeah, check that. Authorizing the implementation of certain sanctions set forth in the Countering America's Adversities Through Sanctions Act. No. There's something over there on the left-hand side that is something about sealed indictments. How many indictments do we got, caller? There you go.
Like 52,000 or something.
Yeah, so sealed indictments in the
1,400 in Colorado alone.
Yeah, sealed.
Wow.
There's a lot going on.
So what are sealed
Check
indictments?
New York City. Or New York. Sealed indictments are where they indict somebody, but they keep it sealed so their identity isn't released. Details about the case are not released until a certain time due to whatever reason. Right?
I guess. I'm not sure what all that means.
Yeah, and then the unsealed means the ones that were sealed were unsealed, and then the non-sealed means indictments that were never sealed. So, dang, California's got...
They're the highest right
Are they?
there. All
What was New York?
8888.
Yeah, California's got 8,888 sealed indictments. New York's got...
A lot of crooked people there.
Poor
wow,
California.
That's great. Texas is up there
Yeah,
next
Texas.
right after California.
Texas has got a lot. Check
Crazy.
Florida. Not too many in Florida. Florida's
Surprisingly.
pretty cool.
All the southern states are pretty low.
So when are all these sealed indictments going to be unsealed and we're going to have Judgment Day? Is it soon?
I don't know, but I saw an article that Hillary was going to be something with WikiLeaks that gave Hillary till sometime soon. I can't remember the exact date. And that if Trump didn't do something, that WikiLeaks was going to come out and expose it.
WikiLeaks. Julian Assange. Get him.
something like October 25th or 21st or something. Here soon.
Yeah, they did call it Red October, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yes. Well, I guess we'll find out. I'm not really sure. Until the election. Hopefully we can get a group on right before the election. We're looking at the John Birch Society or the Constitutional Party to bring on.
You think something's going to happen before the election? I mean, because just now Facebook has, like, you know, censored so many 800 people off, and Twitter, you know, they're all censoring everything right now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they're trying real hard. What do you think of Alex Jones?
Oh, you know, I used to really like Alex Jones, but I'm a little confused about him now. I'm not sure I completely understand what controlled opposition is. I learned a lot from Alex Jones, but then he kind of went against Q, and it's pretty confusing, honestly, like what he tells us, some of the truth, but then leads us away from the truth. I'm not sure how that works. I've got a simple mind, you know, I don't.
It's okay. You're figuring things out. Roy Good says, Committee of 300, Club of Rome, Tavistock Institute, Aspen Institute of Tech. Holy crap, Black Nobility, all the steps in the NWO agenda. What do you think's at the top of the pyramid?
Oh, I don't know.
No?
Top of the pyramid? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe it's Lucifer. Lucifer?
Yeah, I guess so.
What do you think, Eddie? Deep Eddie?
I don't know. Do people have any idea who they think this QAnon is?
No.
I mean, I think it might be Trump himself, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people think...
Well, he's for the people. He does a lot of rallies. He loves meeting the people and interacting with them.
I thought Q plus was Trump. From what I gather, Q plus is Trump, but when it's Q, it's like the military intelligence, or it's his movement, or whoever he has that's like making everything transparent. It's the phenomenon. You know, he keeps saying this movement, our movement. You know, when he goes to rallies, he always talks about the movement. You know, I think that's what Q is the movement.
Could be a number of people. I mean, it's crazy where he had that picture and he's like, you know, Q was like, check the picture, and it had Q in it, just randomly, very random.
Yeah, I remember that. It was the picture
But here's the thing, is then Q made a post a while back and says, wait till you find out who's talking to you. Now, the thing that intrigues me is, like, what if Q could be JFK Jr.?
Yeah, but where did all that start?
Well, you know, I don't know. Like, I caught on to Q about, I don't even remember. I don't have any sense of time, honestly.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've seen a lot of videos where, you know, the videos that he makes, like the Plan to Save the World and stuff, in his voice, and he says, like, January the same way that JFK Jr. said it, and I guess that's a whole conspiracy in itself there. But it's pretty, I mean, that would be pretty exciting, don't you think?
I think so if it was real, but we don't really know what's happening. All we know is QAnon saying, well, just take it easy. This stuff takes time. And I don't know. It's like TikTok. Doesn't it seem like it's kind of being drug out? Like, well, what if it...
Like you said, you got to have some patience. You can't undo centuries worth of evil overnight.
Well,
I mean,
he's
really.
definitely right about that, but...
And look at all these. Look at all the resignations. Look at all the firings and stuff. You have to get rid of the head of the DOJ and the FBI. You can't.
But don't you feel like he's kind of led on that very soon there will be Judgment Day? Soon?
Soon. I think there will be soon, but I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a definition of soon. I think he's right.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight. And if you think it's going to happen overnight, then you're in for a big disappointment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're not really sure.
People have already been fired and resigned already. I mean,
how do you
look
think?
how many pedophiles have been arrested. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot going on that we don't know about.
How do you
we
think-
think we're awake, but we're probably, most of us really aren't awake to what's really going on.
How do you think this election's going to turn out?
I think it'll be a red tsunami.
Red tsunami.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one because, you know, with the presidential election, a lot of people thought that Clinton was gonna win. 98% chance.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. But then Trump wins.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out because I think,
it's going to be
Democrats are definitely out in droves. They're going to vote.
Oh, yeah.
They want to try to get those coattails
Oh, yeah.
out of there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the
Have
right
you voted
shows
yet?
up
Did
again.
you vote absentee? Or are you going on election day?
Oh, I'm a mail-in voter, so I'm just waiting for it to come.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Well, let me tell you, this is the first time, okay, I'm in my 40s. This is the first time I have ever voted.
Whoa. What's
Yeah,
wrong with
well,
you?
I didn't care. Who cared? I didn't care. It didn't matter.
It was always kind of just the left hand and the right hand, right? The same person?
I've never cared about politics. I did not give one shit about politics, honestly. I did not care.
Yeah.
But Trump ran, and I tried to vote. That's a long story. I won't go into it. But I wasn't registered in the right place or whatever. I moved around a lot.
Oh, okay.
But I voted already. I got my absentee ballot. And this is the first election I've ever voted in. It's that important. And I represent a lot of people. So I know if I voted, there's got to be a lot of other first-time voters out there.
I think there is. With the popularity of the internet growing, and I mean, it's probably at its peak by now, there's just, a lot of people are becoming politically active, and I think a lot of it
Yes.
is due to the internet
Yep.
on either side, even.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
do you think there's a
definitely important.
Yeah, do you think there's a possibility that QAnon is a deception?
Could be a troll. Could be some smart troll, maybe.
Possible. Stay vigilant.
Yeah.
It's possible. Heck yeah.
Are you a member of GLP?
I am a long-time lurker.
Oh. What do you like about GLP?
I like that I get my news first there. I like the weather stuff. I really like the weather stuff.
Yeah.
But I find out what's going on in the world from GLP before anywhere else.
What's this child vlogger visits Trump rally? Are the crowds really that huge? I bet they are. Black hole all-seeing eye opens up over France. What the heck?
Shit.
Damn.
Shit's going down in France.
Oh my gosh, it's a YouTube link. That doesn't look or sound good. CERN. Yeah, that's the other thing, CERN.
What's CERN?
CERN's that giant facility they built underground over there. I think it's Geneva or somewhere in Europe.
Oh man.
It's
I
a
forgot
particle
the name.
collider.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they think they're building like a warp or like a Stargate or something or
Nice. That would be pretty cool. I hope they do.
Do you think we win in the end, caller?
I hope so.
Me too.
I think so. You know what I think? I think a lot of people are middle Americans. They're working class, and they're not as vocal as a lot of people on the internet. You know, you have a huge alt-right, and I'm not saying anything negative about the alt-right, but some of them get a little weird, just the same as the alt-left.
Yep.
There's extreme sides to both ends, and those are the most vocal. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And in the end, there's just working class people that just want a normal America.
Oh, yeah.
So,
they want the American dream. They want a piece of it.
yeah. And so when they're like, okay, you know, and it all comes down to work. It comes down to money and jobs, and usually the right
corruption
supplies
Hopefully
that.
you don't have corruption in the government that's siphoning all the money from the public sector and the private too.
Yeah. So, you know, it's the silent majority.
I think Trump's doing a damn good job, and even if you weren't on the fence with the Trump, you've got to be now, considering everything that he's done.
He's done a lot.
And, you know,
for as stupid as the
honestly,
media said he was, he's done a lot.
I mean, you have to just be blind to not see how bad they're attacking him. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Yeah, I don't watch CNN. I don't have TV or nothing like that, but you know, I get everything off YouTube, and just to watch the clips I see off like Mark Dyson stuff with CNN and how bad they attack him, like you just have to have some common sense to know that's not right.
Yeah.
Who's that black dude on CNN, Don Lemon?
Which is smarter, Don Lemon or a real lemon? We don't know.
I mean, like, is that for real? Does he really get on there and say stuff like that?
Well,
You
yeah,
have to,
he
like,
gets paid a bunch of money. That's the thing. He makes a great salary, probably. Probably like $240,000 a year. Get up there and say whatever we want you to say. Yes, sir. That's what he says.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
As long as he makes some money. Roy Good, one of our listeners, says, "Can't believe Bernie had so many voters." Yeah, I agree, but when you offer people free stuff, they're gonna come out in droves.
It's free.
The kids living in the basements, they're like, that sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
I think as long as Trump stays in office, especially if he gets, you know, reelected and all, and I think we're headed for a good place. I'm actually scared for what's going to happen when his term is up.
Yeah. Well, maybe he can maybe he can serve 4 terms like a god emperor does.
What do you guys think would happen if he did get impeached?
If he got impeached, I honestly think there will be a civil war if he gets impeached.
I think we are closer than we've ever been since our last civil war for a new civil war.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell they're pushing it now with all this Antifa stuff and all these Democrats and stuff, like Hillary calling for being uncivil and stuff. They're pushing for it now. You can totally see that. I don't think there will be one right now, honestly, but if they get some power and Trump is impeached, I really think there will definitely be one.
Well, what if
I think that's what it's going to take for people to get off of their asses and do something.
Yeah. What if this QAnon thing is real though? What if Trump?
What if it's real?
Went in a state of emergency and he actually started arresting people, more notably liberals.
Like for real.
We're talking a civil war there too.
Yeah, the media is going to come out and say
so
attack.
Divided right now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's another issue for another discussion and another day. But, you know.
But it's true.
People are losing friends and families over politics, which is pretty bad. I mean, there has to be some middle ground where we can at least discuss it without trying to shut each other down.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But you know what? I don't know. I don't really honestly see that divide except for on the TV.
Really?
Most everybody that I know, well, I've got one friend out there, but we quit talking a few months ago because of Trump. But most of the people I experience in real life support Trump. I don't see the divide. I don't see it except on TV. That's what I wonder about.
I mean,
That's
out
a good
here,
point.
we're in a pretty divisive area in Colorado. This area, you know, you have one county that's pro oil field, pro Republican, and then the very next county over is probably as liberal or more than LA. I mean,
wow, is that Boulder?
Yeah, Boulder County, Boulder itself. You go there, and it's like being in another country. It's crazy.
Is it really?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you hear about hipsters. If you want to see hipsters in their natural habitat, that's where you go.
The hipster takes a drink in his natural habitat.
With their paper straws and...
Well, caller, we're going to wrap it up here soon, but before we go, we want to know, what do you see in the future for all of us?
Hopefully a golden age.
The Jubilee?
The Jubilee.
Or a civil war. We'll find out.
All right, caller. Well, hey, thank you so much for calling in. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you.
You're a very smart lady.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Bye. Well, Deep Eddie, what do you think? What do you see for us? Huh?
I think I hope that we can all meet on a middle ground.
Yes. Yes, definitely. All right, well, we're going to cut it here. Thank you all so much for tuning in, listening to our podcast tonight. We had Mháire, what was her last name? Stritter. On from Space 1889.
Thank you, Mháire.
Yeah, thank you, Mháire, for coming on, listening. Thanks to everybody who tuned in and the last caller who called in. And Ted, Renaissance Ted, and Deep Eddie for being here with me. Don't forget to go over to godlikeproductions.com. Check them out. Support the site. And also, you can visit our podcast website, which is www.hiddenpathpodcast.com. You folks have a good night.
Good night, y'all.